and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richie of the MHRT Network. Over that away is DZ. He is representing his Los Angeles Chargers. And down below, indoors, I don't quite know why, but indoors today is Jack representing his Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, dude, if you live that far south, you should be outside. That's all I'm going to
It's
say.
raining outside, so that's why I'm inside.
Minor details builds character, as my dad used to say. Builds character. But but anyways, guys, we have a great show for you tonight. We obviously all had some games. We're going to be recapping each of us over the weekend. We've had some trades occur within the division. We've had some no trades occur within the division. And by and large, the divisional standings have remained the same overall. And I guess we probably should just kind of go over the standings. I mean, we are coming into week 10. I think it's kind of a, that time, as it
Second
were.
half of the season, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's incredible that we are all just kind of talking about how the season was just getting ready to start and all that. It seems like not that long ago, if we're going to be honest. And now we're kind of entering that second half of the season now, where one half's in the books. And so now this is when it, push comes to shove. If you're going to make a push to do something or get it done, you got to do it now. So, really interesting outcome for the season. I have to say, DZ, your team is doing really well, especially considering the injuries that your team has right now. Like you are in. I mean, I realize that every game's a bit of a nail biter, and you wish that you had a better strength of a team and all that kind of stuff. So fine, that's fair. But you're at 6-3 on the season. That is nothing to sneeze at. That is a legitimate. You've gone out and taken care of business more times than not, right? So you can nitpick at how you took care of business, just as I can with my Denver Broncos. Let's call a duck a duck. There's certain things that I wish obviously we could change too, but by and large, the end result has been more wins than losses this year, and you are second in the division now as a Chargers team, sitting at 6-3.
Doesn't feel like it, but yeah.
Can you just imagine if your offensive line was healthy, though? I mean, holy cow! You're 6-3. If your offensive line was healthy, you might just be running.
The Chargers were effectively undefeated before the major bulk of their injuries went down at the end of the gauntlet. So if you remember, the Chargers started the season basically every divisional opponent back to back.
I mean, if you don't think curses are real, you're not a Chargers fan, because they're real. Yeah. They've had some, as I've seen other people put it, that cover this team, right for this team. I mean, it's just insanely unlucky this season with injuries. A lot of soft tissue stuff, a lot of ankles, and but yeah, outside probably that Colts loss. Yeah, definitely. They could be one loss. They could have been a one-loss team, but those injuries have definitely contributed to some of these losses or some of these close wins, like Richie alluded to.
Yep. You may feel, hey, we just did it, and you felt that you probably should have been able to do better, or some variation of it. But
right,
either way, you're at 6-3. Third place in the division is the Chiefs at 5-4. Which is
Bills. Good job, Buffalo.
The Bills definitely took care of business there and continued to kind of bring the Chiefs back down in the divisional standings. It is going to be a bit of a bittersweet thing, though, because while that's a good thing that the Chiefs have dropped in the divisional standings, we do also need to be realistic in the fact that the Chiefs are starting to look better, but they're just also playing really good teams.
Right.
And
schedule, yeah.
And so
and with the Bills too, the Bills always seem to beat them in the regular season, but lose to Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yeah. But
let's hope that's not the case this year. But look, they're out right now as everything currently.
They're not in the playoffs.
They're outside looking in. So
I think this is Mahomes' first year not making the playoffs since entering the league, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, yeah,
like assuming things continue where they're going, right?
Like they're not like running the table. Essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, I'm not sure that he's ever missed the playoffs.
Well, I mean, if playoffs were to start today, yeah, I don't think.
No, I'm saying if the Chiefs sit to where they are right now,
yeah,
and things were to kind of basically play to, their general kind of one win above 500, general thing, they would likely not make the playoffs, and that would
was that the case? Like his rookie season when he was on the bench.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean,
no, his rookie season, he stepped in the last game, and I'm almost positive. I think the Chiefs made the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
with Alex Smith. With Alex Smith, and then I think they went one and done in the first round. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think his second year he won the Super Bowl or something. If I'm not mistaken,
yeah, probably something crazy. Like that.
I think I'm right, but I mean, I can double check it and stuff. And if I'm wrong, fact check me. But I think he won his second. I think he won the Super Bowl in the second year. But anyways, third or fourth in the division rather is the Raiders at 2-6. And then first in the division, sitting as we stand today, is my Denver Broncos at 7-2.
7-2. That could have been.
You guys are on a run, Richie. I mean, like 6 wins in a row.
Well, that 7-2 could have been like 5-4, right? Like that could have easily been 5, or it could have been 7 or it could have been 7-1 or 8 or 9-0, or 8-1 or 9-0, because literally both games we lost were very winnable for the Broncos, like very winnable, if we're being honest. And we've had a few games as of late where we have really done some pretty incredible things in terms of offense in the fourth quarter, etc.
The New York teams come to mind when I think of those close wins.
Dude, I feel like I could be 4-4 based off of just 2 games this season being so close. So I think it's a matter of inches.
Yeah, I think we all thought that the Raiders would be doing better than they are, but who knows what's going on? Jack, you'll probably talk about what you think's going on with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So, I mean, some interesting pieces, Jack. The team that beat you guys last weekend is sitting at 5-3 now. So it's kind of odd to see the Jags having, being in that position, but I mean, it's not like they're playing quite well. And then the Patriots and the Bills, I mean, that is a runaway in that division if you've ever seen it. I mean, the Patriots and Bills the Bills are at 6-2 and the Patriots at 7-2.
I mean, the other half of their division division has collapsed.
And then Dolphins and Jets are done. Like they're like, stick a fork in them, just
fire sale.
Yep. Yeah, fire sale, move away, let's go, bye, done. And then so I mean, it's really interesting how the AFC as a whole is kind of shaping up a little bit. However, I will say, if you're going to be objective and look at the AFC, we have the deepest division in terms of win totals out of anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
So we have 3 teams that are above 500. There is no other division that has 3 teams that are above 500. And of the 3 teams that are above 500, we have 2 of the teams, and the only other division that has 2 of the teams that have the win totals that the Chargers and Broncos have is the Patriots at 7, matching the Broncos record, and the Bills at 6, which is actually matching the Chargers win total as well. But again, we also have the Chiefs in our division with 5 wins. So it's like we do not have real slouches, if we're going to be honest, within the division.
No, There's one division that rivals it, though, is the NFC West. The Seahawks, surprising team at 6-2. You got the Rams at 6-2. The Niners at 6-3, and even the Cardinals in last place are at 3-5. So that's a big surprise division right there.
I would say that's a comparable division to the AFC West in terms of like strength within it as it comes into 2025, and I would agree with you there, Jack. But within the AFC, remember we mentioned at the very onset of this season that we thought the AFC West had the strongest division in the AFC, at least, if not the NFL. It is either darn close to being the toughest division in the NFL, but it is definitely right now, overall, bigger picture, the toughest division currently in the AFC.
Agreed.
Yes,
it just is. Yeah. It just is. So that's the divisional standings. Chat, curious as to where you think the division will shake out. Do you think that we're going to see a similar seeding as we finish out the season, or do you think we're going to start seeing some movement within the AFC West in particular? Curious as to everyone's thoughts on it, because we are halfway through we're actually a little bit over halfway through, but we're halfway through for all intents and purposes. And so we are now in the home stretch.
Well, I saw,
moving on
kind of where it's at, like with the top three teams, what we talked about, from before the season started. I actually thought Kansas City would have been a little bit better than what they are as a whole. So I kind of had right now, if I would have said from the beginning of the season, if I had to put a standings out for the AFC, West, I would have had Denver number 1, Kansas City number 2, Chargers number 3, and I hate to say it, my Raiders. Hey, what's up, Nav? Raiders, number 4 within the division. So it's kind of shaken out the way it is. But I will admit, though, I am really impressed with the Chargers with so many damn injuries, and it's all on. The most important part of your team is your offensive line, and these guys are you lose 2 all pros, and then Beckham, your big free agent, in and out. It's like, and still competing. It just shows that Justin Herbert with the coaching staff, in Harbaugh, has taken that next leap forward and has got this team on his back. I mean.
He's definitely carrying this team on his back right now, and it's fun to say for stat wise and things like that, but it's something I don't really want to see. I'd like to see the running game take over, which they can't really right now, or I'd like to see the defense, take over. But it's been Justin. I mean, I'm not gonna say the defense hasn't been doing anything because they're pretty good. They're solid. Mm-hmm. It's just I expect them to be a lot better this season than they are. But yeah, it's definitely, and Richie kind of said some teams I think I saw a comment, some teams will fade out in the next few weeks. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but that very well could be the Chargers. I mean, their schedule is going to get a lot tougher here real quick, and it starts Sunday night against the Steelers. And then the Jags team, they're a decent team. Jack, you guys just faced them. They do get a nice bye at week 12 along with the Broncos. And they jump out of that, against the Raiders, division game. I mean, it just gets tough from there on out.
Well, D said, I got to correct you. Jags just had their same bye week as the Raiders. So they're both coming into this last game that I'll be talking about. They both came off of a bye. So, but okay. You will have a new player that you have to go against.
Ardell, you're not going to get any arguments from me there. Although I would use a little stronger wording.
I think they wanted too much, man, or too expensive, maybe.
Well, Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh man! For some reason I was
wondering. I'm like, who's Carney? I'm like, I have never heard of that.
Carney's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's the guy that
we got some inside Canadian talk going on.
Yeah, this is between two Canucks. We'll be with you.
If you would have said like A or
okay, yeah,
about
yeah.
or something, I would have been like, all right, they got their thing going.
Yeah. So, anyways, it is what it is. The current government in Canada have released their budget, and we'll just say it's troubling. And I didn't vote for it. Anyhow, moving right along. We have some interesting games, and I do agree. I mean, I think that we are going to have some fascinating, probably ebbs and flows. Like you're going to see one or two teams that are struggling turn on the Jets and really start to rise up through the division and make some playoff pushes. And then you're going to see one or two teams at least that are either atop of the division or like in second place just crash and burn. Like literally crash and burn. And it'll be really interesting to see which teams those are, etc. Like as an example, I don't wish injuries or anything on anyone, but the Patriots, as an example, are an incredibly healthy team right now, and they have a lot of cogs that fit really well together. And when you have a team that is individual based and don't really have any major superstars or anything like that, they just have like good cogs and pieces, the classic Patriot way, if you will. They run a risk of one or two dudes going down and just being done.
Could very well. I mean,
and so that
Richie,
could be one option.
They've been playing really well with a very light schedule. So, yeah, I mean, you're not right and you're not wrong at the same time. It's that team is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens with them, especially with the Bills right there knocking on their heels. Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little cold right now, and I'm wearing a light hoodie. I don't know.
Hey, now these Eds in the Northeast, bro.
I mean, let me see. I'm looking. Yeah, I don't have any heaters on or anything. It was kind of warm today too. I don't know.
My heater's turned off.
I'm in a basement essentially, so it is a little colder than the rest of the house.
Yeah, I'm in a room full of wall of windows. My heater's turned off. I don't have the furnace on at all, and it is not particularly warm outside.
Rich, don't lie. You're just saving your money because it's too damn expensive to pay for electricity up there.
There's certainly part of that too. Like I'm not gonna lie. No, but you're not wrong either. They say California is a warm state. There we go. That's what I got right next to me.
He's definitely a California boy, Richie.
Dude, you're done.
Yep.
Man card revoked. And you're wearing a sweater too. Anyways. Looking ahead, let's start doing some recaps of some of these games.
Yep.
I'll kick off with the Broncos win against the Texans. That did surprise me a little bit because of the defense. And by the way, I've now seen behaviors from my Denver Broncos stack, like in terms of resilience, coming out on top, making plays when they need to, offense kind of flipping the script really quick and being able to pull off like a lot of points really quickly. And to be quite honest, I originally had, I'm almost positive I had my Broncos losing against the Texans. That was my general thought. And I believe the two of you thought that the Broncos were going to win like a very close game. It was a close game at the end of the day. But you guys ended up being right and I was incorrect. But I now, for me, just we were talking about in the green room before the show started and everything. I now believe I have enough data where I can adjust up my expectations of the Broncos overall, simply because I've seen now enough games where we have been able to do enough multiple ways to win games. We had the blowout against the Cowboys where we were able to turn on the Jets and just like literally just stomp them and get them out of the way sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we had other games where we had like the Giants and we had the Texans where the Giants had a really good defensive line and we still managed to pull out 33 points in the fourth quarter. Now, you can't rely on that, but nonetheless, like, that was a win. And then we had the Texans game, and this one here, with the number one defense in football.
I did not know that
And
when you guys headed into that game, and I was very surprised by that. But then I looked at their numbers, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, I thought your guys' edges were real, like your D-line was like stellar, which it is. Then I looked at the numbers on the Texans' edges, and I was like, oh my God, like, wow.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
And the Texans' edges, they got some pressures, but ultimately nothing, remarkable. Like, it was nothing to kind of say, whoa, okay, that was, that was a game. They certainly got pressure, but they never actually got home. They didn't actually have the major impact in terms of stats wise.
Was that a lot to do with Sean's game planning with the quick pass or run game?
No. In fact, if anything, the Broncos were trying to hold on to the ball a little bit more than they would typically in most games, because there was some weaknesses, I believe, that we saw in the mid and deep routes where we felt that we had some real mismatches, but also in the run game. So we had a lot of run plays where we were able to mitigate that, not just from a game plan perspective, but Sean felt that we had some good mismatches in the trenches overall in certain areas of the lines. So he felt that our D line was superior to their O line, which is true. Like, the Broncos absolutely killed the Texans O line. Like, we slaughtered them. And then in certain sections of the Texans D line, the Broncos had a few offensive linemen that matched up really, really well, which I'll get into just in a couple moments from now, where I can kind of start kind of calling out certain players and stuff. So anyways, I thought it was a really interesting game overall for my Denver Broncos. And as I said, it has allowed me to, with some degree of confidence now, after seeing stacked wins like this in different fashions, kind of dial up my expectations a little bit from where I would normally have them. Obviously, I'm a pretty harsh on my own team overall, and so I like to operate under data and seeing things take place, as opposed to simply just saying, operate off of hopium and say, I swear we're gonna do well, man.
I watched
so
Richie. I watched that play, and everybody will know what I'm talking about. Well, maybe if people aren't paying attention to their game. I watched that play, and I wanted to believe, going into watching that highlight, that it was dirty, and it wasn't. He just hit his head on the ground. Two guys.
That was a clean hit.
Yeah,
a beyond clean hit. Yep.
Yeah, because immediate, they're like, that's a dirty hit. That's a dirty hit. And so I was like, okay, Broncos are up to their same old tricks again. Let's check this out. And I looked at, I kept watching. I watched a slow mo. I kept slowing it down. Sped it up, and I was like, no, that it's
he
just
intentionally dropped his shoulder into his midsection to make sure he didn't try to maneuver around. Yeah.
Yeah. So
DZ, are you saying now that the Broncos are the new Queefs in the way of, like, not getting the calls? Spent?
No, I think. Wait, they didn't call. Did they call a penalty on that?
I
think
they
threw
a flag and then they picked it up because it was not a flag. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's the one benefit of American football compared to like sports around the world, is they look to try to make this even. They're like, hang on, timeout. Let's go over this. Like, was that dirty, and it wasn't. And a Texans fan or any of us in our division are like, that's dirty. It wasn't, man. It was just an unlucky. He had two guys coming at him, hit his back of his head on the ground. Oh well. Hopefully he's okay.
The ultimate issue there, and by the way, Ardell, the Broncos fan base, generally speaking, has largely aligned on referring to our current defense in 2025 as the anonymous crush. Part of the reason for that is that none of the names that we really have, with the exception of PS2, are like major household names. Like they're not necessarily known across the league as being like, wow.
Yeah.
But when you look at the dudes that we have on our defense and how they're playing, like we are within the top 3 for sure. And at this point, rising those ranks as opposed to falling. And so
I think if you guys win a few playoff games, like names start to stick. If not, they just go away.
Yeah. But as we stand here today, they're referred to as the anonymous crush, and that's kind of how we're laying that out.
Now, I thought you were talking about the uniforms, you guys' throwbacks.
No, well, I love the throwbacks. Throwbacks are amazing. But with regards to that hit, that's what you get when a quarterback does not pay attention or think with his head prior to doing things. CJ Stroud, what he did was he should have slid earlier to protect himself. And instead, what he did was he slid after the dude was already like he was like right there. And
he was flirting. He was flirting with disaster, and it hit him in the ass.
Yep. He was not putting himself here, we keep on saying that the quarterbacks have a role in protecting themselves, right? At least I do, and I've said it so many times on this show. That's exactly what CJ Stroud did not do. CJ Stroud put himself intentionally, maybe not intentionally, but certainly of his own accord, in harm's way. He had every opportunity to slide sooner, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And
he
that's
just tried to get too much. He just tried to get too cute.
That's the whole thing with these quarterbacks. Like, oh, let's get that extra half yard. It's not worth it.
No, not at all. And you know that the coaches, everybody on this, like, well, I would say coach-wise, like QB, head coach, are like, get the fuck down. They're like, what do you they're not happy about this. Like,
no.
No.
So, I mean, in fairness, we saw some really great defensive plays from the Texans throughout the game. We saw their defensive backs play pretty well. We saw Cortland Sutton generally defended fairly well, with the exception of like a couple plays here and there. Troy Franklin was definitely a problem for the Houston defense, where he was regularly open.
Yeah.
And so he's a name to look for going forward still. He's having himself quite the season, a little on the low-key side.
He's like this right now. Right?
He is a bit of a roller coaster, but his highs are much higher than his lows are low, which is a change for him. I'm not saying that he's like my favorite player or anything, but I am just saying that I would at least like to be objective in the fact that Franklin was not great last year at all. Devon Vele was the better player between him and Troy Franklin, as an example.
Now, let me ask you something real quick. You just brought him up.
Yeah.
Do you regret that trade now?
No.
To any degree. No, not at all?
Well, sorry. Do I regret that trade? I think in a Sean Payton offense, I think Devon Vele would have done very well. And he's the type of player that we actually need as the other boundary style guy because of his height and size. Devon Vele was also a very disciplined route runner. And so I think that would be incredibly helpful, especially in the red zone.
I mean, because last time I checked on him, Richie, and they're not using him in New Orleans. It is, I'm like, what? Why did you trade for him then?
Yeah. So do I regret trading him?
Get him too.
I think we got more out of that trade than we would have gotten from the player overall on the field, because I think the trade capital back, I think, was a lot greater for our team. So do I regret that trade? Looking at it objectively from that regard, no. If I look at the player and how he generally produced last season and how I think in our offense he would have progressed, then yes, I certainly wish he had perhaps stayed. But I couldn't justify turning down that trade capital.
No.
Going into the season.
I think you should tell the fans out here like what you got, because I don't know if all the people that are in the chat actually know that. Now, man, I see your question, and that is actually something what you just brought up. I will bring up with Richie when we talk about when the Raiders play the Broncos on Thursday night. And Spence, cheers, my brother. And yes, just have McDungus get my stuff from Richie, and I'll show up on your show with Bill on Friday.
Gave it to him.
Awesome, thank you, Richie.
He's already got it. Hold on, I just have to double check. Okay, so the Saints acquire a 2026 fourth and a seventh. So sorry, we acquired a 2026 fourth and a 2027 seventh.
Wow.
And we got Devon Vele.
Yeah, you guys fleeced them. You fleeced them.
So just to put this in perspective, Devon Vele for my team in 2024. So we basically kept him on our team as a 1-year rental. He played very well as a 7th round rookie in his defense.
Yes.
But like he played very well as a rookie as a 7th round wide receiver overall. So that's something to consider. But we got a 4th round draft pick plus a 7th round draft pick.
And that 7th round can be ammo to throw in for stuff.
Yeah. And keep in mind that he was a 7th round draft pick for us.
Yep.
So we basically got a 4th round. We got our original capital that we put in to get him, basically, in a 7th round pick in the 2027 draft. And then we got a 4th. Like you can't
look how bad the Saints are. So I mean, that's an early pick in each round too.
Dude, the other night, real quick, I was looking at cap space stuff. I was on just a Charger chat stuff, and the Saints are every year in the hottest of hot messes. They're in the red in cap and players and the whole nine. It's bizarre. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know everybody says the cap is a myth, and it must be because they still field a team every year. But man, how does that front office function being negative every year?
DZ, look how many years they like pushed it back and back and back. Every year they'd be like 40 million over, and they still keep all the same players because they would extend all these contracts out.
They're in a reckoning. They're in the reckoning right now. This is what the problem is that what they did was they constantly ate back, and they had this. So what they ended up with is a balloon of guaranteed money that was basically fixed that they can't get out of. And then they had to forcibly let those players go. So they have a lot of dead cap for a lot of players, some of which are not even on the team anymore, that they're having to pay out because they're up against the cap wall. So they didn't try to eat it all at once to basically suck really bad 1 year or something like that, which they really probably they kept on kicking it down the road, and they ended up putting themselves in a very, very bad spot.
I mean, they gave up Lattimore last year because of that cap.
They gave up Lattimore. They've given up a whole bunch of other players as well. But what they had to do was they weren't being cap conscious with making sure that they got rid of certain guys before their time was up, and they basically ate their contracts to allow for the young guys to also get signed to try to make themselves look more competitive than they were, rather than just bite the bullet and actually start rebuilding their roster properly through the draft. And they're in a tough spot for probably the next 2 years as a result of their poor decisions. And then it's kind of like the floodgates open.
They're going to have to get young and develop. And that's the only way out of this.
Yeah. So anyways, that's that. So the Broncos had the Texans. We had a pretty good game in the run game. J.K. Dobbins again had a very good game against the Texans. The Broncos kind of allowed the run game to fall off in the second half.
J.K.'s been pissing Chargers fans off. He is not. People are not a fan of him anymore. I mean, they are, but J.K. does this against the Texans, and we're like, where was this last year in the playoffs, dude?
Yeah.
But, I digress.
So I do think that the Broncos, again, have a pretty darn good strength and conditioning program. We've generally remained healthy, except for this year we have quite a few injuries, but not as many injuries to the key players as, say, the Chargers have had. But we do have injuries to several key players on the roster, including PS2 this season. We had, a couple other guys, like, for example, Greenlaw was out for a good part, although he came to us hurt, so I don't really count him, right? But we have a few key guys, if we're going to be honest, and depth pieces that we were counting on to make that next step to fill in gaps that got hurt and are still hurt.
So did Mims get hurt in that game against the Texans?
He was hurt going into. He was hurt before. He didn't even play, and he's still hurt now. And so
I heard he's not going to play from that concussion this week.
He's not, which tells you that it was pretty bad.
You guys just seem this season just had more bumps to bruises than anything serious. A lot of just
Surtain's injury is
other
not
than that,
great. Is not great if we're going to be honest. Yeah. And also, don't forget Ben Powers, our starting left guard.
How did Palcho play? It's my new favorite nickname. That's why I had to say
Palcho, that dude is killing it.
I've already decided it that if I get another dog that fits that's his name is going to be Palcho. Like I was thinking about it this last week. I'm like, if we get a new dog, it's going to be Palcho. Like,
yeah, it's a great name. It really is. But when you look at how that dude's playing, there has been multiple talks with multiple guys that know football really well. There's also multiple talks from just like, fans that are just like gaga over anything to do with the Broncos that are already talking about Palcho being a starter, period. And I agree. I've said this already on the show. Like this is not news. I said it last year, actually, coming into this season, where most Broncos fans are not even remembering that Palczewski is a starting caliber right tackle. And I'd also like to remind everybody that he was an undrafted free agent for my Denver Broncos.
Like everybody's an undrafted free agent for your Broncos.
But
you don't even need draft picks. You just get them off the UDFA wire.
He is okay. So he is not only started 2 games, but he is graded amongst some of the top players like league.
Attaboy, Palcho.
So, I mean, that's one. And then number 2, he seems to be positional kind of agnostic. The only position I don't think he plays particularly well is left tackle. His strength really is on the right side because he's right-handed. So he's got that anchor on the right side a little bit better than the left. But he is killing it as a left guard right now for us. And, credit where credit's due. Good job. Keep up the good work. And he is the guy that I keep on telling you guys about that we need on the offensive line to be alongside Quinn Miners.
So do you think it's going to get extended, man? Are they going to extend him?
Oh, they better. If they don't, then that's problematic because you can't teach aggression and you can't teach the will, like the willpower to be able to move a guy that doesn't want to be moved off the ball.
I agree.
And he has both. You can teach the technique and the pass pro and the other stuff, but he's already gotten better at it, but he can continue to grow and do better as time progresses. But you simply cannot teach that aggression. You either have it or you don't. He's got it. You better be keeping him. So.
All right. Now I'm going to have to watch him on Thursday.
Yeah. So he's our left guard. And then the right guard is Quinn Miners. Now, where the interesting piece is going to be, and Jack, I predict that your star pass rusher in Max Crosby is going to have a few stunts in this game.
Probably.
I think because he does do it. I've seen him do it with my Broncos already in the past, and so I expect him to do more of the same. I believe that he's going to intentionally go up against Wattenberg and make him look like a fool.
Oh, you think he comes in that far?
Yeah. Because it'll be based on film.
Let's call Wattenberg like what he is, dog Wattenbull.
Yeah, he's we'll call him dog water. But so when you actually look at Wattenberg, he was far and away the worst player on the offensive line against the Texans because he was the guy that on either side of him that allowed the rush to get back to Bo Nix and forced Bo Nix off of his spot. So you got a guy like that on your team, DZ, so I know you know what I'm talking about, right? Like we can agree, same problem. Yep. And it is not good. Like it it ruins plays. Like it just straight up blows them up and stops them dead because you can't run anywhere with a dude or two right in the backfield. You can't do anything.
I feel like the Raiders, though, like they could fix that situation with a snap of their fingers, but something's going on where they won't do it.
Yeah. What do you mean? In the way? Oh, the offensive line? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they could they could go, all right, let's switch spots and let's just fix this.
Jack, does Pete Carroll have a daughter or something?
Well, he's got a son on a team, and he kind of coaches.
Does he have a daughter?
I don't know if he has an actual daughter.
Okay, because like something tells me that he caught JPJ like making out with his daughter or something like that.
JPJ, right?
Like,
well, I think that he got in an argument with his son Brendan Carroll, who's the offensive line coach and the running back, coordinator for the line. And we've talked about this on previous shows. And DZ, you're right. It's a snap of the fingers, to shuffle these guys around. And I brought up the stats already on the show previously and where the rankings were. But no, they keep to continue. And you're right, Richie. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he does have a daughter, and yes, maybe they hooked up and got caught or something.
I think JPJ probably made Brendan Carroll cry or something. Like probably took him around a corner and was like, well, got in his face and went all crazy on him.
It makes no sense. I mean, the whole nation knows this. It's like it's obvious. You're like, okay, we're just football fans. We're not coaches. We're not GMs. We're none of that. But it's obvious when everyone, that are in the fan base sees everything that I'm saying and seeing, and everyone agrees that it's just wrong, and there's nothing being done about it. And it's like, nope, we're going to be steadfast. That's where, again, in the beginning of the year, we talked about compete. And now it's like non-compete. You don't have to compete if you're a Pete Carroll's guy, and if you're not a Pete Carroll's guy, well, then you have to compete. So, facts. Nab knows what I'm talking about for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree. So anyways, overall, the game, we saw a great defensive play by the Broncos again. Really locked down a lot of the offense there from the Texans. We had, I can't remember the stats, but it was a remarkable amount of red zone stops, like a remarkable amount of red zone stops in that game. That really set us apart and really kind of showcased how well the Broncos defense is playing this year overall. And I expect that to continue because that has been a strength of this team throughout the entirety of the season. So this was not like a one-off game. This has been a trend that has been able to be replicated game after game. And then, of course, we had the Broncos offense show flashes again. But if you're going to be honest, when you're going against the number one defense in the league, and you have a few holes on your offensive line, and you had a couple, we had an abnormal number of drops in this game by the wide receivers as well. So there were some real opportunities here where this game could have gone really, really badly for the Texans if the Broncos offense had actually caught these passes that they dropped. And the other piece I do want to bring up in this game as well is, well, Bo had a few issues. He overthrew a few passes and he kind of had a few happy feet moments. A lot of those moments came from the pressure that he was getting right up the middle, basically from the center. And a lot of the other moments that Bo had were because he was getting pressured so quickly on previous plays, he was overreacting to what could have been pressure in certain scenarios, just because the offensive line in previous drives had not protected him properly. And Herbert kind of has a similar challenge in some cases, DZ, where if he gets constant pressure throughout the game, like on a regular basis, this just as well as anyone, he gets his clock sped up like real quick. Yeah. And so
that's any quarterback.
Yeah, but there are some that are actually able to tone her down a little bit and reset reset themselves. Herbert is certainly one that struggles with the reset part of that. Bo Nix is another one so far that I've seen that struggles with the resetting of his clock that's moving too quick. So, anyways, that's the Broncos Texans. Broncos did pull off another win, and we will talk about in more detail the Broncos Raiders after my fellow co-host here delve into their teams. Jack, I will throw over to you and your Jags loss, and then DZ will go right into his game, and then we'll get into the Broncos Raiders right after that.
Yeah, it was actually a really interesting and actually fun game to watch. You can actually skip the first half of the game. I mean, there was one the one touchdown that was scored was by the Raiders, and the extra point was missed, which later in the game that becomes huge of the outcome of the game. And the one field goal that was, gotten by the Jags was an NFL record, 68 yards. And, from listening to like commentators, it could have went 72 yards.
What's that guy's name? Does anybody? Luke?
I think it's Littleton.
Oh, Little. Okay, it's like
Little or Littleton or something like that. But man, what an impressive, kicker. I got to give him the cred where the cred is due. That was impressive. And it's weird. If you look at the box score and you just look at certain things on the box score, you'd be like, this team should have won. Oh, that team should have won. So like, with Geno, it was probably his best game. And I did say in the private chat between us, Geno sucks. It was only because of the last play, which I'll get into later. Geno was 29 of 39, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, QBR 117.
Dude, that must have been his best game this season.
It is. It's the best game this season. Where Lawrence was 23 of 34, 220, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. If you would just say that alone, you'd probably say, "Oh, the Raiders should win by a score." But then you dive deeper into what the stats are. Oh my God! It's like, and I'll just go an opposite stat. It was an overtime game, and the Jags had the ball for 42 minutes and 57 seconds to the Raiders 26-47. I mean, if you look at 15-minute quarters, that's like 3/4 of the time you have the ball. I mean, that's just ball control. And, and I got to give them the credit on it. It's like the Raiders had 16 missed tackles, and all this is all happening in the second half, pretty much. 16 missed tackles, and 143 yards was after first contact. So that just tells you nobody is wrapping up, which is like one of the better things that the Raiders do is, wrap up the ball. Actually, I think they're ranked 5th in the NFL as a whole for wrapping up the ball. But this game here, man, did they just let it go? And you know what? I did forget something. I apologize to everyone in the chat. We got Jack G, Broncos Breakdown, David Yonkin, 93 Nav, Ardell, Kona Spence in the house, Willie Wayne, Jericho. And then I also see that there is one other person in here, and I must have missed him. Oh, Joe Yang. So thank you guys for all joining the show. Glad you're all here. Please ask your questions. Like whenever the host is on, for whatever team, ask the question at that point so we can get your questions answered. Makes it a lot easier that way. So yeah, for that time of possession is huge. And you look at the runs. I think Jacksonville had like over 40 something running attempts, and the Raiders had 19.
Wow.
So only 13 of those was by your running back, your number 6 pick overall. And it wasn't like a game in the first half where you're behind, like the Kansas City Chiefs game, where you kind of give up on the run, but they still really didn't use it. So, I put that on our offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, like, why not use them more? And I understand, which is something I did see an improvement with. Like, why not run the ball more? I mean, the game's a low scoring game. Anyone's game at that point. But they went away from it. And what I did see them do, which I do like, and I want to see this against Richie's Broncos, is, Genty did a great job in blocking, which goddamn we need that against Benito, 100%. And I love the fact that they kind of put him in space on the outside. He had way more yards in, catching the ball, leaking out from the backfield, and kind of extend it that way in running versus running up the middle, which has been trashed the whole year. But still, you got to keep a defense honest. And because of the running, that the Jags had, that's where it just wore down my defense. And I think that's why we had so many missed tackles, why we had so many yards after first contact. But, on the positive side, even with that being, they had the same amount of first downs, 26 first downs, for both teams. And they kept them to 3.6 yards per carry. So even being a worn down defense and giving up those missed tackles and yards after contact, it still shows that they were still swarming to the ball on the defensive side. And goddamn, Mr. Man, Brock Bowers, holy smoly, that dude, he's back.
He seems like he's the heart and soul of that offense.
I think he's the heart and soul of the team. If I had to pick one person to start my franchise with on this team, even over, Max, I think it's Brock. I mean, shoot.
Those are fighting words. I'd be careful.
Well, everyone knows I love Max too, but he's just that special. He had 12 catches on 13 attempts, 127 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And his yards per catch. So every time he touched the ball, it was a first down, 10.7 yards.
Stud.
So every third down, Raiders were 70% on third downs. So, I mean, this second half was fireworks. It was fun. It was super fun to watch. It was very fun, just because of the fact that everyone's moving the ball. There's a lot of great plays. I want to read this. Jack, how many possessions did we have on offense in that game against the Jags? I know, but it's important. So how many possessions? We didn't have enough possessions, it felt like, because, again, we didn't have the ball very much. I mean, you think about it. I mean, when the other team's getting 3 out of 4 quarters of possession time, that just shows that we didn't have a lot, but we were effective when we did have the ball, and we did move the ball well. But we need also, going on the defensive side, which was great. Hi, Blue Kelly.
No bueno.
Sitting on the bench. Porter came in. Porter looked pretty good as a whole. The Jags, Trevor Lawrence, I will say, they did take advantage of the defense, as well in the way of our backs, even with Porter out there, even though Porter looked way better than Kai Blue. It's just kind of a different story in that second half. Everybody was moving the ball. Nobody. It seemed like every play was like almost a first down.
Sounds like the Jags just had a good game plan. From your explanation, Jack, and some of the numbers that you just said, they just ran you guys down. They did.
They wore the defense out. Is a big part of it.
I mean, there's that saying, and it's not coming to mind. It's like pass to something, run to win, or something. I don't know if somebody in the chat knows that saying. That'd be great. But it seems like that's what they did. But that's really surprising. I know that, Bowers, from what I see, he's money. He's clutch. But how they're not leaning on Genty anymore, that's, or designing things for him is a little weird. You think you'd want him more involved.
Absolutely. As your number 6 pick in a draft, not running the ball. But again, I think, it kind of almost goes back to where, with the coaching, mixing up that offensive line, right? And we can't run inside at all. We need to run outside. So instead of running outside, even that's when they're starting to do now the short passes, which I hope that, again, it happens a lot against Richie's Broncos, because when you get a guy like Benito coming in there with that, track speed as being that big boy, and, if you can get it on the outside of him, and then you're going up against a second level, well, then that's going to change things, around quite a bit. Special teams wise, Raiders have been horrible this year. and they were still really bad against. It was amazing, and this is why this was another super fun game to watch. The special teams on both sides, in the way of the kickoff returns, these guys are getting like 40 yards per kickoff return on both sides. I mean, it was like really. It was. What is it, Mozart? What did he have? Let me go look him up real quick. Mozart.
Is Nav hinting at that you guys aren't converting on third down? I'm assuming.
Well, we converted on third downs this game. We were at 70%, 7 out of 10 on third down. So it wasn't the third downs, this time. Oh, Raheem Mozart, 5 returns, 202 yards at 40.4 yards per return. Exciting. It was like, but it's pretty much the opposite on the other side of the ball too. So that's pretty much. So I'm going to get to the last play of the game. So this is what
Jack.
Everyone came in to watch.
Jack, real quick. Hold on, real quick. I just want to quickly touch on this because you kind of zip through it real quick before I could kind of say anything. So Navman brought this really, really interesting point forward. He is right. You only had 9 offensive possessions. The Jags had 5 red zone trips, and you only had 4. The next question here is the run game and how the Jags were able to stretch out those time that, like, it's not just possession, it's 9 possessions, and then who had the time of possession differential between the two teams to then allow the other to stay off the field.
Right.
And then in addition to that, Jack, there's just one other stat that's also important, which is the ability of your defense to stop the Jags offense to get your offense back on the field. And if you ended up with a 3 and out, I'm just using it as an example, and let's say the Jags on either side of that 3 and out were able to have, say, like a 5 or 6 minute drive or like a 4-minute drive or something like that, and then say like score a field goal or a touchdown or whatever, that really does hinder and hurt your team's ability to both rest your defense so that they can constantly keep the Jags off the field, and it also hurts your team because if you're allowing the other team to march down the field and chew up that massive time and then put 7 points on the board, obviously the 6 point, the touchdown, and then you're done. Like, you're done for. Like, it's over. Like,
right?
They're taking 10 minutes off the clock, scoring 14 points total in that 10 minutes, and then having you go 3 and out. You're done because your defense is gassed. They're taking massive time off the clock by extending out the play, and then your offense isn't able to then produce. And by the way, I'm not pointing this out as a knock on your team in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply saying I've seen this script before because my Broncos sucked that bad for that many years that's exactly what I saw from my team. And so I'm not projecting to say that's what's happening with yours. I'm just saying I know that playbook and I know how that looks, and it is demoralizing as a fan to watch on the screen.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There was like Jacksonville, I will say this, they put themselves in really good position. They had 7 third and 3 yards or less during the game.
Yeah.
So the Raiders kind of put themselves in that same position, in the way of allowing that to happen. And I gave the Raiders credit for efficiency on third down. Jacksonville did, just as well. They were 9 of 16 on third down, and they were 3 of 3 on fourth down. So they kept converting to continue that clock and wear out the defense. But, it was nice to see, the Raiders step up a lot. But again, thinking about it, it's like 27 points in one half. That's a lot of points to give up. Oh, and I do have one last thing before I get to Geno's last play. So you look at Geno's yardage, right? I already went over his stats. 284 yards. 233 yards were yak. So again, what he was doing, we only had 7 catches for the wide receivers the whole game. So everything else was either to the tight ends or the running backs. And so 233 out of 284 yards is yards after the catch. So they were going short the whole game.
It sounds like they saw something going against the Jags, and is also protecting Geno at the same time. So
I agree, because I think they want to get away from Geno throwing so many picks, and which is kind of weird. It's like this team has gone, 180 in the beginning of the season. It was all about going to deep ball. Like how many, like in the previous shows that we had, like in the beginning against, the Pats, we talked about how many like explosive plays, 20 yards or more, going down the field from Geno, and he's getting them. And then as the games went on, those explosive plays are turning into interceptions versus completions. And now we're getting to the point to where we're not running the ball, which is, again, something that needs to be done when you got a Genty on your team. Running the ball more. We talked about how many yards, like, he gets hit in the backfield. He's got more yards after contact than he does, yards itself. It's like, which is really kind of weird. So that just shows that interior, that offensive line is not doing what it's doing. And that's why flaring out now to the sides for Genty is now becoming a bigger play now that we know that he can catch the ball, which I think we all felt like he could catch the ball, but it's finally, Chip Kelly's catching on to that. But I just want to leave it with this, and then we can move on to your game. So with that last play, so again, it's overtime. It hasn't been done this, ever since the rules. I forgot what team, made the rule change where both teams get a possession of the ball. So Jacksonville got the ball. They went down and they scored.
Yeah.
And then the Raiders come back and the Raiders score. So when I mentioned in the very beginning that missed, point after,
yeah,
that was a game changer to make it go to overtime. So, we're going for a 2-point conversion. Everyone in the Raider Nation is happy we went for it. There's no point in a tie. I mean, who cares about tie? The motto for the Raiders is just win, baby. Right. So we're not going to settle for no ties. Win or lose, we got to go for it. And then when Geno, I watched that play, I don't know, 6 or 7 times now. When he took the ball, he looked over to the right and he was looking for Bowers. Bowers was double covered. So then he goes to the left, and his boy that we just picked up, the wide receiver, I'm forgetting his name. Please help me out. Sorry.
Lockett.
Lockett, yes. Lockett's wide open. Also, at the same time, in the way of our other wide receiver that we just traded, he was fairly open too. So Geno did a pump, and the slow defensive tackle needs the first pump and then jumps, and then Geno throws the ball and it gets batted down. If Geno didn't pump, that would have been a win. So it is kind of interesting to watch.
Who would that have gone to? Who would that have gone to? That if you didn't,
it would have been a Lockett.
Okay, it would have been a tie. Okay. Yeah. Do you think that they went for did they have to go for the 2, or were they just going for the win?
Well, no, they could have gone for the tie, but why go for a tie?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, so I've seen not a lot. Not like I was diving into Raiders chat, areas, but I heard some people are like, why not just tie it up, or why are you going for 2 at home? Some things like that. I saw your guys'
the Raider fans that are like going, okay. Again, the motto is just win, not just tie. So those are like the Raider fans that are after the fact, and they saw the play. We lost the game, so a tie is better than a loss. But in that moment, you just don't go for the tie. You go for the win.
Right. I agree, and especially looking at your guys' record and things like that. Yeah,
And Jack, if you had won with that play, as an example, like if you had won, then that could have been a springboard for your team to then kind of get some extra mojo. And I think that
possibly
Pete Carroll is very in tune with that general mindset and mentality. He knows he's dealing with mostly younger men, like they rally together, especially when they're going out into battle. And let's make no mistake, the football field, just like a rugby pitch, is a legit battle because it is physical and aggressive as all get up. And so he knows that he needs that springboard moment. He needs that piece within this season that he can point to rally those troops. And if they had come off of that with a 2-point convert with basically the win, and he had come out of that and won the game, that could have been kind of the moment, right? Like if we're going to be honest, that could have been the moment. That is a big scoring game. That is a pivotal moment to say that we're not giving up. And it's also something that gives players confidence that they can win games. You can come out on top, and that could literally shift things on a dime.
Absolutely agree. And you know what? I think that's, Richie, I'm glad you said that because honestly, that is kind of what.
Welcome.
No, honestly, it's like I heard Pete even kind of talk about it, in his pressers, like that was an opportunity. And yes, it would have springboarded a lot of these guys' minds saying, hey, we can do this. And, we fought this whole game, especially, on guys on the defense that were just exhausted, saying we can do this. We can keep fighting through it and we get something out of it getting nothing.
Yeah.
And again, a tie wouldn't have made anybody happy on either side of the offense or the defense, either way. So, and I'm just glad that, the mentality is like we go out to win. We don't go out to tie. If we lose because we don't get it, well, so be it. It's just going to happen. That's football. So I like your point.
Yep, fair enough. So let's move on, DZ, to your game, and then we'll circle back to what is got to be an epic divisional rival at this point between the Raiders and the Broncos game coming up in Week 10.
Well, Chargers went into Nashville, and I don't think this team likes playing on the East Coast early games, and I don't blame them. I was like looking at the weather for Nashville. It was like perfect. I think it was like high 40s, like a little bit of rain before. It was like perfect football weather. Chargers won, but at what cost? And I'll get into that. But looked like this scrappy Titans team came to play because, them missing a ton of guys still caused a lot of havoc in this game. And it's like, is that foreshadowing of what's going on in LA? Is that what's, or who knows? I mean, that term any given Sunday is a thing for a reason. Titans jumped out to an immediate 7-0 lead. Justin Herbert stared down, I think it was Keenan Allen, just probably the worst interception I've seen him throw this season. And Cody Barton ran it back for 24 yards and a touchdown just right off the bat. I was just like, oh my God, here we go. And then I think that was the Titans' first defensive score all season. Yeah, we tie it back up, but another thing they had, I think it was, they had a rookie. By the way, their weapons on the offensive side have the weirdest last names. I don't know if there's like a Nigerian or African like league or something, but it's like seems like all these guys have these last names. But their rookie Chamir Dike returned a punt for 67 yards and a touchdown, and they went up to a 14-7 lead going into half. And I'm like, what is going on? Heading into this game, Chargers were like 9.5-point favorites. Everybody was like predicting blowout this, blowout that. I think I had my prediction of last week going into this game. I had them winning, but it was like, let's see where it's at. I think I said it's like either going to be 28 12 or 30-10, and they ended up winning 27-20. So they come back. I can go by play, but I'm just going to go over my notes. Their D-line, even missing Arden Key and Jeffrey Simmons, was wrecking havoc, wrecking shop. And our right tackle, backup right tackle, or backup right tackle, so third string right guy, Bobby Hart, who was sitting on his couch until the Chargers called and said, "Hey, do you want to play some ball for us?" Was playing pretty decent these last few weeks. And then he gets hurt. I don't know how he got hurt. Off the top of my head, I haven't seen any replays on it. But he goes out with I think a groin and ankle injury. So we're like, oh, great, here we go. Trey Pipkins, who was the quote unquote starter, comes in. He's not been 100%. Pipkins comes in, and this isn't chronological order, but you got a guy coming in who's not 100%. And then to make things even worse, probably go effing nuclear. I think it was Sebastian Joseph Day, who was an ex-Charger. I'm not 100 on this. I've been on like Charger Spaces. I'm like, does anybody know which guy that was that did this? Some guy comes flying in through the pocket. Justin Herbert steps up. This guy came in untouched, full speed, right into the back of Joe Alt's leg that he was already back from a high ankle sprain. And Joel immediately went down. And, long story short, since he already had that ankle sprain, there might have been some minor damage, so he was coming back. He was in a little bit of a brace. He has an ankle injury and is now needs season-ending surgery. So he's done for the season. And
that's your top two guys.
Yep, that is the top two. So going into the season, we knew we didn't have Slater. So that was already like, okay, we can kind of figure this out. And now Joe Alt, because Joe Alt, to me, I don't want to say he's better than Slater at left tackle, but
he is. Maybe I'm a homer because I'm a Notre Dame
Slater
fan.
is really good at speed guys. Joe has shown that he could struggle with the speed guys a little bit, especially Benito. But Joe is
who doesn't struggle with Benito?
Right, but Joe,
I'm getting sick of that guy.
Is he can make a name from being a top left tackle in the league, or something like that sooner than later. He goes down, and what that does is Justin doesn't have to look to his blind side when he's got Joe there. Joe is his friend off the field, like that's his buddy. You know what I mean? And Joe's out now. Justin's got to look. He's got to look over his shoulder, kind of alluding to what Richie was talking about. He speeds up his internal clock, and
the question above it. Good. Yeah, we go right there.
So that's to be determined. So who came in and filled in is Jamari Sawyer, who, let's be honest, man, has been one hell of a pickup. I think he was picked up during the Telesco regime, and he played 1 year when Slater was knocked out for the season. He filled in and played pretty admirably at left tackle. Now, albeit he was heavier, they had him lose weight this season to be more of a swing offensive lineman, to maybe play guard more. And even though he kind of struggles at guard, so he played left tackle for the rest of this game. Let's just say the whole line as a whole did not do well. When you have your swing guy coming in, a guy who's not even supposed to be out there, and then you got Pipkins on the other side, and then also we lost. Becton didn't play in this game, and Becton's a whole nother story. In my opinion, he has been a horrible signing. He's just a lazy, big, fat dude that got to hide behind an elite.
Then I'm glad you got him, because I wanted him.
He got to hide behind an elite offensive line in Philadelphia with great coaching, and credit to him. But here in LA, it's just not working out. When he is coming in, he's leaving the game early. We're having to play musical effing chairs on the offensive line, and that's not good. And, that's how Joe ultimately got hurt, is you've got weak guys or guys that shouldn't be starting against, starters on any D-line in this league. And when you're O-laying dudes full speed right into your stud, your, top dude, outside of Herbert, Slater and Joe Alt are the two other most important guys on this whole effing team. More than anybody on this offense, on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball. I'm even including Derwin James, who is the heart and soul of that defense. And they're not coming back this season. And we've got 9 weeks left, 8 games left. And every week, this Chargers team, they've been losing a player or something. It's like they're sacrificing somebody to the gods of football. And I think Sawyer at least. Okay. Well, and then the run game was not working, especially behind this O-line. And, Kamani Vidal, who is filling in while Hampton's been on IR and Najee's done for the season, he's been doing the best he can. But look, he struggles against good run defenses. He does good against poor ones. That's shown up. He carved up Miami, carved up, I think it was the Vikings, but the Colts and the Titans, they got a good run, good run defense. So the run game was kind
Colts
of
are a good team. Oh.
Yeah, great team. And, and then another guy, Jared Patterson, he's been another guy thrown in the mix. Kind of him and Vidal have been that little 1-2 punch, if you could say. It's more like 1-2 patty cake against the Titans. They got 6 sacks on Herbert, 11 hits. It's let's see. I mean, there's some positives, but like I said, we won the game, but at what cost? And it's soured everybody. Like this immediately, who we win, and then it's just like, oh my God, but we have no Joel, and we see who we've got on the horizon. There was some stat earlier this season about the pass rush or pass rush win rate D-line wise that we have to go against coming up, and it's arguably one of the toughest. And how they do it, I have no clue. But Justin's pressured 165 times this season. That's 30 more than any QB. 30 more. Like it's
wow.
Red alert levels right now. They've had, I think, the second or the most guys on the O-line. I think it's been 9 starters on the O-line go in and out. Yeah,
that's crazy because I just look how bad the Raiders' offensive line is, and you guys are 30 more than the next team.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Justin is this offensive line. I think if you go through whoever's rankings you want to use, I've been kind of steering away from these rankings, but they're around 30th. They seem worse than that. That number where you're saying the 298 to 22, I'm not understanding that.
That's your total time of possession.
Oh, but what's the 22?
Well, it's 290. I guess it's 298 minutes and 22 seconds or something.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what some of these stats sites will do is they'll look at your total time of possession for the whole game, and they'll just add them all together.
That's what I was wondering what that was. I've never looked at that stat.
Yeah.
Hey Nav, thanks for that because I did not know that. That's kind of neat.
But that goes into Jack and Nav's kind of back and forth.
Your headphones went out, buddy.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Richie.
Nope.
Wow, Nav, great stat. Time of possession is number 1. Especially with all the offensive line, being hurt.
Yeah, and that
just shows you your quarterback is a beast, dude.
Well, this is what's like. He doesn't get any talk about MVP at all. like they got him like way down in the list. I mean, to us as fans, he's playing at an MVP level. I guess maybe he's thrown a lot more interceptions this year, and he's got a really short memory. So it's like if he throws an interception early in the game, it's kind of interesting. He like locks in after he throws it. He's like, it's like a switch. He's like, oh, like he comes in. It's kind of joking, like if you were to be hung over or something, and then, you know, he's like, oh man, I made a mistake, forget about it. And then he just locks in for the rest of the game. But, you know, they held the Titans to, they didn't score a touchdown, even though they scored 20 points. They got it primarily through, you know, special teams and interception on defense. And then I believe they got a field goal or two. I'd have to go look on there. The defense did an excellent job holding them from a touchdown. They did some on the goal line, kept them out, you know, which I thought was really impressive by our defense, you know, especially with that team that has Pollard and what's the other guy's name? It's escaping me. DZ, my Broncos lost a few players this season. I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. Oh, Sports Track. All right, thanks. So I want to give a shout out because, you know, the Chargers did make a trade at the trade deadline, but they made a trade a few weeks ago for Odafe Oweh, who, you know, when he was with the Ravens had 0 sacks this season. He's now up to a sack a game with us. So he's got 4 sacks through 4 games. He's got 12 pressures, 4 sacks, a QB hit, and he's got the 8th highest pass rush win rate right now.
How many games has he been on your team?
4 games.
4. Wow. That's impressive.
He's been pretty solid in that rotation. And I think both teams, Ravens, are happy with the guy they got, Alohi Gilman. I think he's helped their secondary out immensely. And always helped our pass rush because it was struggling. Mack was out for a little while this season. And Bud Dupree has been a no-go. He's on the fans shit list, let's just say. They don't understand why he's there. But and then I also want to give shout out to our linebacker, Deion Henley. I think it was on October 30th. So the game was, I want to say like 2 days later or a day later. The team was already in Nashville. His brother was shot and killed, exiting a smoke shop. And so people were like, well, he's not playing. But, you know, more often than not, you do see players play because, you know, they've got the support of the team and they're already there. And, you know, there's not really much they can do. And he ended up having a pretty decent game. He had 9 tackles, 1 sack, a tackle for loss, 1 pass breakup, and, you know, kind of dedicated that game to his brother. I don't want to get into the politics or what's going on, what happened to his brother and his father. You guys can Google. They've got a pretty checkered past with the Henley family. And then our tight end Gadsden, I think he was a leading receiver in this game. The guy's an effing stud.
He's a stud, dude.
I am so happy that we have this guy. He could go down to be one of the best pickups, you know, maybe over Joe Alt that this GM has done. I mean, if this guy stays healthy, he gives this offense a chance. Herbert is up to 305 rushing yards, the most out of any QBs right now. And that's by necessity almost, you know, losing your first string and your second string running back. He's number 1 in rushing with QBs. He's number 1 in completions at 220 in the NFL. He is the second in passing yards, 2,390, and he's got the second most passing touchdowns at 18. So,
dude, he's the best quarterback in the AFC West, and
he's carrying,
if not all the AFC, pretty much. I mean, I'm glad you brought this up because he's not. Again, I did not know that. I mean, I knew he was good, just from like the games and the stats and us talking. But wow, I mean, we said even like before we got on with everyone in the chat, when Richie had to go for a second, like, yeah, he's carrying a team. But wow, I did not know that. That's impressive.
He is carrying the team, and he's got some, right now, special teams, under Ficken, who, the Harbaugh regime came in. Ficken was with Staley guys, but that was like the only good group they had was the special teams under Staley. So people assume that ownership said, "Hey, you guys need to keep Ficken because of how good the group is." Because if you guys don't know, Harbaugh's son is coaching special teams for the Seahawks right now, Seattle Seahawks, and they're doing pretty good up there. Well, Ficken went from being a top special teams unit last season and the season before that to this season. Chargers are dead last in special teams. They have dropped, and a lot of that has to do with injuries. And this team's got a ton of injuries. So what do? The person that you're most likely to cut or get rid of is a special teamer, one of these aces. And there was a guy, I think he works through the GAC podcast, the Guilty as Charged. He put out all the special teamers in these last few years that have been let go or went on IR or got cut. And it's just, there's only so much you could do with duct tape, man. And right now, the special teams is really killing this team. A lot of bad field position. Herbert has to put on a cape and go play Superman ball, to even make something happen.
DZ, the problem with special teams is that a lot of the times that just showcases depth. So, for example, no, but that's what I mean, right? So, as an example, you're not going to want to start or play that many of your starters on special teams.
No.
Because you run the risk of having those key starters get hurt on a less critical play to the overall success of the team.
Yeah.
And so then you end up with this spot where it's like, okay, well, how deep is your team from a talent perspective? Like what does your team look like from your backup linebackers or your
it's still deep.
Your tight ends.
It's still deep, but they have lost some young guys that you wanted to keep around if there weren't injuries.
Right.
They had to release defensive back or cornerback Miles Purchase. They released another stud, Caleb Murphy, a few weeks ago due to injuries. Not them being injured, but just to make room. And what happens? Immediately he gets picked up by the Patriots.
Right, but that's a team problem in my opinion, right? Like what you're referring to is front office decision making problems.
Right.
There's all like here. Let me present it this way. A well communicated and appropriately oiled machine.
It's
between the front. No, and that could be the case. No, but the point is that between the head coach and the front office, guys that are valuable to winning on the field will actually get money into the pockets of the ownership group because you're going to win more games. You're then going to put more butts in seats for longer throughout the games. More merch is going to be purchased, jerseys, like trinkets, etc.
Right.
And it's just a bad move. And so I would argue that there's a few teams in the NFL that kind of know this pretty well in terms of like how to promote their team and do well in that regard. And I just think that when you let good players like that leave the organization to like move things around.
I mean, it's out of necessity, Richie, at this point.
No, but
I know what you're saying, but you just don't go from good special teams, probably top of the league the last couple of years, to just bottom of the league overnight without there being some reasoning behind that.
Sure. But what I'm saying is look at the vested veterans that you have on your team and the ones that are willing to stick around. So as an example, the Denver Broncos have about 2 or 3 vested veterans that are on their team that have just followed Sean Payton around and have been bounced on and off the active roster and have simply just been returned to the practice squad and then elevated the next game on game day. And so they still get their game checks. They still get their pay. It's not like they're not making what they were going to make or could make or whatever the case may be. The point is, though, is that you want a couple of those vested veterans by planning your roster and your team that you can ensure that they get paid, but then you have the flexibility of cutting them and then returning them immediately to your practice squad, elevating them on game day, and not losing young talent.
Well, I think that's what
I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, that's assuming that's been their plan, but they've gotten unlucky this year in that aspect twice. They had a running back taken in the first round of waivers, and then they lost Caleb Murphy. Now, who knows if Miles Purchase will get picked up? He was pretty decent. You know, a lot of these guys that are, especially on the defensive side of this ball, under Minter, I would assume are going to get picked up just because the Chargers are having success. I believe right now, and I'm not 100, the defense is ranked around 9th. That seems a little too high for me. I don't know if they're really 9th. Offense is 13th. Special teams dead last at 32nd. And so there's another thing. I mean, you know, before the season even happened in preseason, we lost our long snapper, you know, all pro long snapper. I didn't even know that was a thing. I guess it is.
It's a thing.
He gets hurt. He has some chest injury, and he won't go into what the injury was. He just says it was a chest injury. Reporters even asked him, because I think last week was the first time they could even ask, you know, what happened. And he said he'd rather not go into it. He made a tackle and hurt his chest. Really bizarre. I'm not sure, but so they opened up his window to return. So we've had this guy, Rick Lovato, who was with the Eagles, and he just retired this week. So, and it's making fans happy because his snaps have been low all season. You know, our punters had to grab these things from the ground, essentially. He's had some really bad ones. And the only missed kick our kickers had this season was due to a bad snap by him. So we're assuming that Josh Harris is coming back. But here's another thing where these players we're having to lose some of these good players. They're not 100 because guess what they did? They signed another long snapper, some guy, Peter Bowden. He's a San Diego local. You know, he spent time with the Packers, Jags, and his most recent stunt was with the Michigan Panthers, some USFL team. So it's like they had to sign some emergency guy, and in order to make room for that, they lost a guy that contributed on special teams and was a depth piece, and it sucks. That's the horrible way. Now,
I don't understand.
I don't either. Richie.
No, I don't get it. Like I need this explained to me by somebody. There is no reason why that guy couldn't have been signed unless he was on someone's practice squad. There's no reason why he couldn't have been signed if he was a street dude. Then he should be signed to your practice squad.
He is. It is to the practice squad. He'll probably get elevated.
Oh, well, okay. Then he came off the couch.
Yeah. USFL, I guess. I don't even know when their season is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But then your young guys, if you have all these depth issues and all that kind of stuff, like normally what you'd want to do is then sign like a vested veteran, for example, or some variation of it to bring up to your active roster to fill in a hole.
I'm getting into this.
Yeah.
So we do also have Dean Leonard, he practiced full today, I believe, and so did Josh Harris. So that's good. You know, they might be cutting this Peter Bowden kid if Josh Harris is good to go. Like I said, this is probably them, you know, watching their six, you know, heading into this week, Sunday night game. So Dean Leonard is a defensive back that we haven't seen all season, but he has been a major contributor on special teams and on defense when they need him. And then another excellent defensive lineman, his window opens up from IR. Deshaun Han, really clutch signing this year. So that's going to really help.
That player.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
So his window's open. So there's some good news. And then we did trade away Jasir Taylor, who was not a favorite by this team by any means. I wish. They traded away this guy Jasir Taylor, and his claim to fame, his whole career has been a good gunner on special teams. That's about it. When he has to come in and take snaps on the defensive side of the ball, you just hold your breath. You're like, oh God, here we go. Because it's just automatic. I mean, if you had a quarterback or an offensive coordinator who was smart and they're like, Jasir Taylor's in, we're throwing to him. We're throwing to where that guy's at. Well, it was like I think it was the last trade. And by the way, nobody knows this. This was the busiest trade deadline, they said, since like the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised by that. Well, they traded him to the Jets for a conditional 2028 7th round pick. Like I just
wow, 2028. That's how bad they think of him.
But the Jets were like, sure, like here you go. Like
he's a guy. We'll give you a ham sandwich.
I was like, where did this come from? Like, and I think there's a connection with the Jets. Chad Alexander, I think he's got a connection with the Chargers, so there's that. I think he was like, hey, I'll do you a solid, you know what I mean? I'm not sure. But then out of necessity also, the Chargers traded this is where it got kind of like foggy waters, because after Joe Alt went down, the whole fan base is panicking. I was on like, I don't know, I think I've done like 3 spaces on X with Charger fans, and everybody's like, what the hell are we going to do? Half the fan base is saying trade. The other half fan base is like, save our picks, because going into this draft, we only have 5 draft picks. And it's just like, we don't have the capital to make anything happen. Well, and then here's this other aspect that's come out from some of the writers is teams knew the Chargers were desperate for offensive line help. They were like upping the price on the Chargers. So nobody was really playing ball, because there were some guys on the Commanders that I would have loved for them to be able to get a hold of for a good price. That didn't happen. Some guys on the Browns, that would have been great. People are floating Evan Neal. I did not want that guy near my team from the Giants. In my opinion, I think he's trash. There was a guy with the Saints who we ended up trading with, Cesar Ruiz. I was kind of hoping. Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Jets are a thing. But we ended up trading with the Saints and getting a former first-round tackle guard, Trevor Penning, who has a very checkered past in the NFL. Very checkered. He's a 6'7", 325-pounder. We got him for a 2027 6th-round pick. So not really messing with our capital going into next season, which I'm happy about.
Not bad. That's not bad.
Not bad.
You don't have much capital. Well, you have 5 picks next year?
Yep. Only 5 picks. But we do have the most cap space out of anybody in the NFL next season.
Really?
So, yeah.
What are you at next year?
I just checked it last night. It's a lot of money.
Sorry, DZ.
Yeah, that's a lot. Raiders got like 104 million in cap space this year.
It is snowing here now.
Oh my God!
It's snowing, and you're in a t-shirt
and shorts. I might add.
That's awesome.
And shorts.
I don't think it will snow here till probably January. That's crazy.
It never snows here, thank God.
So Trevor Penning, checkered past. This guy primarily played left guard from this season. I've seen countless graphs from fans who are pro this, anti this. I'm calling him Timo Joe Alt because he was out there meeting everybody today at practice, and he wears the same elbow sleeves as Joe Alt does. They're similar size. They're both white boys. I'm calling him Timo Joe Alt. We do not know where he's going to be playing. At practice today, they had him playing both tackle spots, left and right, to see where he's going to fit in. He did grade out better at tackle than he has at guard. The Saints were obviously moving on from him. Now, he does have some cons, man. Like a lot of penalties. He does some stupid stuff. I mean, there's that one famous play where he threw the D lineman into his quarterback's legs. Like, dude, you do that, you're going to get shot in LA. They will kill this guy if he throws anybody into Justin Herbert. Like, but
that would be the curse of your team right there.
Oh, it would 100. Like we would have to like have a seance around the facility, in El Segundo. Now, what he does have is a nasty streak, which I like. He's a big guy. For some reason, Harbaugh has a, infatuation with giants. I mean, Joe Alt, Becton, now Penning, they're massive human beings. I don't think that's always a good thing, to be honest with you, because you guys heard what I said about Becton. He's been dealing with something. We don't even know if he's playing this week. I'd like him to play, but Foster Sorrell, who's been filling in at right guard, has been pretty damn good, and I think he got hurt the last game too. Go figure.
It's like, there's a difference between being tall and big and just being a little shorter and overweight.
Yeah.
And so you're always getting hurt.
All right. So I'm just like, I think this is what sucks. Chargers are 6-3, man, second place in the division. They're still in the playoff hunt, right? Like they're in the playoffs, but you lost both your tackles. Let me check private chat real quick. Need a minute. Okay.
You're good. Lost
both their tackles. That's not going to get you far in the playoffs if you make the playoffs. You've got a tough schedule coming up. Like from this upcoming game, from here on out, it's pretty tough. And
I looked at it. You do have a tough schedule.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I think what they're doing is, obviously teams were, they weren't willing to probably pay, like I don't think the Chargers wanted to give up any of their picks this season because
you don't have that many. You need them.
No, we need them. And the thing is like every fan, I think if I could ask every Chargers fan right now, they'd be like, what do you want to spend those 5 picks on? They're like, every one of them would see trenches, offensive line, D-line, just get it done. And anyways, this kind of feels like a soft punt on the season. That's my term for it. It's like, let's see how far we can go. But, you don't really have the confidence in going against some of these elite teams that you will see later on in the season or in the playoffs without your tackles. I mean, God, we saw it last year against the Texans, who Richie's team just went against. I mean, they just obliterated the edges with their line. So
yeah, I'm not. When Rick comes back, I'm not looking forward to that discussion right there. That's for sure.
And I think what they're like, I think we talked about it. I don't know if we said this before the show. It's about keeping Justin healthy. I mean, if anything happens to him,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, if anything bad happens at this stage of the season, that injury now goes through next season. Now, I guess we won't get into next week's game because we still got to talk about. I think we're going to talk about Bronco Raider game.
Yeah, let's go into that. Actually, before we do that, to kind of segue into it. So we talked about your trade. So the Raiders made a big trade. They traded Jacoby Myers to Jacksonville, the team they just played against.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was kind of didn't expect that one from them. I kind of was thinking the Steelers.
What a tryout game? That makes total sense. It happens all the time.
I mean, Tomlin was he was expecting them to make a trade, and I don't think they did.
Well, what's funny, Richie, is there was a lot of people in chat, like insiders, saying, "Oh, even to the Broncos." I'm like, I can't see them trading to the Broncos. He's the same player as Sutton. I mean, they are very similar. Why would you want 2 Suttons?
That Waddle trade to Denver was this close. It just Miami just wanted, a little higher than what I think the Broncos wanted to give up.
So, it's kind of interesting, the trade with the Jets, right? So that actually kind of factors in, with this Myers trade. So the Jets gave up, they traded a player they got who's the defensive rookie of the year. One of my favorite guys coming out, defensive back.
Oh, DB.
Oh, yeah. Goss Sardner, 2 first rounders.
Yeah.
And then another guy I really like that, the Cowboys got Quentin, Wilton's from a 2026 second rounder, 2027 first rounder, and defense tackle Mazi. So they've sold out. What Nav said in chat. So Nav, I've been waiting to bring that up. Salute you on that, 100%, bro. So that actually plays a part of what this trade was. So they got, Jacksonville's 4th rounder, but when they got the 6th rounder, it's not Jacksonville's 6th rounder, it's the New York Jets 6th rounder. So that's closer to a 5th rounder.
Yeah, that's a little more. That makes it sweeter,
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy who was the ultimate team player. He already said, "Hey, I want out of here." So you got him out, and you got something for it. It should be no harm, no foul. Like, hey, see you later. Thank you for your time. Peace out. Because you guys got some really good capital out of that.
I mean, the trade was good. They were looking for a 3rd rounder, but yeah, I can kind of see, again, if he were to stay on a team and then walk at the end of the year based on the contract that he wants, which I said it's got to be like Courtland Sutton money. It's got to be right around there, a little lower, a little higher. That's the value, the same type of player. They're number 2s, but they're number 1s on their respective teams as a wide receiver. But when they said, we're not going to pay you that, they were going to get a 4th round comp pick anyway. So you moved up in the 4th round and you got a top end 6th round. So yeah, I see it as a whole, and getting Tyler Lockett, off of free agency, which is going to be kind of a similar player, short-term answer, but he's got his rapport with Geno. So
maybe that's what Geno needed, meeting somebody a little familiar. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody that, that there is that rapport deal. We saw it with the Keenan Allen coming back after a year. They pick up right away with 3rd and Keenan. So there's something that's, when QB's familiar with somebody. I mean, look at I think, the Steelers didn't make a trade, but they signed MVS, I think, off waivers or something.
Who's MVS?
MVS is used to be a Packer with Rodgers, so he got one of his guys back with them. But he was on the Chiefs for a while. Big, tall guy. Really hasn't produced what people thought he would for his body type, but he's been around. Steelers did get a receiver, I guess, but it wasn't through trade.
So before we start talking about, the big matchup, so with that trade, the Raiders were going to have 10 picks. Raiders had 11 picks last year. 9 of them stuck. 1 got cut, and Tom Mlott, and then the other quarterback got put on the practice squad. So they have a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, 3 4s, 1 5th, 2 6, a 7th, and 2 of those picks are like comp picks from Moehrig and Spillane. So Mohrig's a 4th rounder, Spillane's going to be a 5th rounder.
I think those 4th rounds, those 3 4s you guys got, are going to be like capital for you guys to move up and grab somebody.
Well, I think the big challenge is going to be the Jets. I think the Jets, they see the writing on the wall. They're going to want a quarterback. They're going to be at the very top end of the draft in the first place to probably get one.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to be able to pass those guys up. If not, I'm just looking at, offensive line. Yeah. I want a tackle, and then, put him at the right tackle, move DJ Glaze into the right guard. You move JPJ back to center. Parham's going to kick rocks and going to go sign somewhere else. And we already have 2 3rd round, draft picks this year. 1 tackle, 1 guard, already sitting out there getting no playing time. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I was kind of depressed today. I saw a first mock draft somebody did, and they had the Chargers picking at 22 or 18 or 22. I didn't really agree with the spot, but they had him getting the guard out of Penn State, who I'm in love with, and just an absolute stud of a guard. That would be my dream pick. I'd be like, yep, boom, run it in, you know. But yeah.
You know, another guard to look at. Look at the left guard for Notre Dame. I think he's still young because it's his first season with the team. We all love the nastiness of the offensive linemen, you know, that go out there and just want to bowl people over. And that's what I'm seeing with this kid. Oh my God. I'm hoping one day, you know, he develops into what he should be, and he's available for my team to pick him up because I love getting Notre Dame guys on my team. And he's just like, reminds me of like almost another JPJ, another type of player, just mean and nasty. So a college player to look at. Nav, I know you're watching. I know you probably know who I'm talking about. If you haven't, go and watch the kid. So Richie, I'm not liking this matchup this time. I mean, I have to say something positive. The last 10 games, we're 8-2 against the Broncos. Last 2 games were wins by your team. But I'm looking at this matchup again. We always talked about lines. Your defensive front. And I've been saying this before even the season started. Is scary as hell. And my offensive line, what I've been talking about the whole year, is how bad it's been. So this makes me really, really nervous. I know it's an AFC West division game, which, you know, they play a little bit closer because it's like that. And players step up. They try to perform harder. But Connor and Benito, especially Benito, I mean, goddamn. I mean, I know it slowed down the last couple weeks. But still, and you know, I got some answers to try to go against Benito. I've been thinking about it just from watching the Jags game. But your defensive front against my offensive front scares the hell out of me. And one of the biggest matchup on that is Forsythe, who we got sitting off the couch to replace Miller, is going against Benito the whole game. And that makes me nervous. Your defense, your offense is top 6. Your defense is top 6. My Raiders are not even sniffing wind of that. Hey, come on, Nav. Irish is always good to draft.
So Jack, I just wanted to pull in some quick stats here, raw stats. So Navman and I are of the same ilk, it would seem, in terms of what I would want to reference in terms of coming into this game. I don't want to get into these next gen stats and read into kind of whatever some team wants to pay some company to try to put out in terms of how good or how bad they are. I'm simply looking at the raw data that we're seeing coming into this. The average points per game over the last 6 games for my Denver Broncos, I only went with 6 just because those are the games that the Broncos have won so far. But generally speaking, if you're looking at the last 6 games, which is kind of like quote unquote recency bias, you have my Denver Broncos with an average point total of 26.2 points per game.
Oh, dude, I don't even want you to read mine off because I think we might have broke 20 or 19 because I think we're at 4 before this last game. I didn't look it up. We're like 14.6, not counting this last game where they got 29. So, yeah.
So your average last 6 games is 16.5.
Oh, so we went up from 14.6 to 16.5.
So if we're just simply averaging out the last 6 games of the season, just in general, it's 16.5. And so if I'm looking at those numbers, just generally speaking, looking at those numbers, keep in mind that your Indianapolis Colts game was 6 points total, right? So that's going to bring down those stats. And then your game against the Jaguars was 29, which is going to then elevate those stats. Right? So balancing everything else overall, your average points over the season is also 16.5, believe it or not. And so I'm just looking at this from a pure, like, ignore the defensive side just for a moment here and just simply look purely at points scored. There is an average differential there of, just for argument's sake, we'll call it 10 points.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, just an average differential. I'm not even getting into recency bias and comparing offense and defense and players versus other players. I'm just saying, put everything else aside, ignore teams, ignore everything, and just simply apply what this year has looked like for both teams, and then kind of put it forward. And so, if you were to quite literally put this forward as a score game, it would be something to the effect of like 26-16.
If that's what you want to call for the game score,
No,
I'm not calling it.
It's actually not. I'm just saying is that's just raw stats that we're seeing thus far, without factoring in anything else into just based on where both teams have been this year. So then when you look at factoring in defense and offensive caliber and all that kind of stuff, a comparable team from a record perspective would have been the Colts, in terms of how they've stacked up in terms of stats and rankings and things. And that was a pretty large disparity in terms of points between the Raiders and the Colts in that regard. And then you obviously would then need to adjust accordingly because it's a divisional game. Like, there's going to be some changes as a result of being a divisional game.
And like you said, it's the last 6 games, so that's really not even including Bowers, pretty much, because Bowers, after week 1 was hurt. He shouldn't have been playing at all, wearing a knee brace, and was not. It was a shell of a player. So, but now he's a factor going to be going into this as well too. And he's the best offensive player at any player in the AFC West. I don't care who it is, wide receiver, tight end, as an offensive weapon. He's number 1. So now that he's back, I'm going to think that he's going to also play into those numbers, since we did not count him in week 1, and we saw what he did just last week. Yep. So I think it's going to be a little closer.
Sure. You can certainly go in that direction. I have a few general comments here. This year, the Denver Broncos defense is within the top 2 or 3 in a very substantial number of defensive categories.
Oh God, you guys, your defense, I've been praising that defense all year, saying it's number 1 in the NFL, the whole year long. And that actually raises the question I have for you. I'm just really curious, because you've not mentioned his name the whole year. Is Jonte Barron your number 1 draft pick? I mean, what's going on with this kid? I mean, I really liked him coming out of the draft. He was actually my favorite cornerback coming out.
So Jahdae Barron is a physical guy, but they're working him in slowly. However, I don't think it's because he is behind. I actually think that it's because Jaquan McMillan is just playing so well. Like, he just is. He's playing so well that the Broncos were taken aback by Jaquan McMillan's progress. Like, he's gone from, again, UDFA.
God damn you and your UDFA.
He's gone from a UDFA. He's hold on just one sec. Draft. Sorry, just give me one sec. Broncos McMillan draft. So just give me one sec. I just want to quickly double check something. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. Yes, he was an undrafted. Okay, so I was right. I just want to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn. He was an undrafted free agent in 2022. Every year thereafter, he has taken major leaps forward to a point where he has literally kept a first-round draft pick from the Denver Broncos off the field a good percentage of the plays.
Wow.
Because he is playing that well. Okay? So that says pretty much all you need to know about how well he is, how well he's playing. And I'd love to say that getting a guy like that for the Broncos is a fluke, but you all might remember a guy by the name of Chris Harris Jr. from the Jayhawks, who was an undrafted free agent as well, and he was like an all-pro, like first team all-pro for a couple of years there at least. And there was one season with the Broncos where he was the best cornerback statistically speaking in all of football, where he allowed almost no yards against him. Like it was something stupid. Like his stats were just
he
dumb.
Had a couple he had
an
elite season.
Like he had 2 or 3 years where he was just like you looked at the statistics and you're like, I didn't know that was possible.
Unfortunately, when he got to LA, that was not the case. But
I agree, but at the same time, he was at a next level for basically the balance of the back end of his rookie contract, and then throughout the second part of, or the first portion and a little bit of his second contract. But either way, Jaquan McMillan is looking to be kind of like the second coming of a Chris Harris Jr. in terms of undrafted free agent corner who is just that good. And then Jahdae Barron is kind of stepping in as kind of an additional nickel dime guy who's able to tackle and be more physical. So he's stepping in place of, say, what you would otherwise have as a linebacker on the field when you want more speed. And Jahdae Barron is a very physical player. He is playing very well. He is making great plays when he is on the field. But the fact remains is that Jaquan McMillan is just playing so well that you can't pull him off. Like, it is actually detrimental to play your first-round cornerback who in his own right has already played well enough to be a starter. So it's
dude, I hate that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not like a bragging piece. It's just simply the stats and frankly, the tape, like the film that you're seeing on field is what it is. It's just, that's the facts. Now on the flip side of this game here, I believe that there's a few things that you're going to have to concern yourself with. One is, Riley Moss gets picked on a lot in terms of the fact that he gets thrown at a lot. But if you look at his
13,
right, and so, but the thing is, when you actually look at his pass breakups, pass completed, and all those other statistics, the dude's unreal.
He's top 5, Richie.
I know.
He's top 5.
Yeah, no, but he's top 5, but he's within like the top tier of cornerbacks targeted.
That's what I mean. But he's still top 5 of not letting completions.
Right. So let that sink in. You are targeted likely the most amongst like cornerbacks that are in that top 5 ranking because you're opposite to Pat Surtain, and you still get yourself ranked top 5.
Right. The only thing is that I mean, that's a 6 stat, but the one thing I will say is, for Riley Moss, though, at the same time, he's a very handsy, cornerback, and he's tied in the NFL with the most penalties with 8.
Yep.
So he gets your hands on you. It's like, how much he's like a player, which again would be like a Raiders player. I'm going to put my hands on you, and I'm going to get away with whatever I can get away with. And if I don't get away with it, then I don't get away with it.
Yeah.
So that leads to my question. That leads to another question for our teams playing each other, because he's one of the guys that I circled because Patrick Surtain is out. And we talked about this last year on the show that I said Patrick Surtain was the only player that actually kept Bowers in check. I think he had like 40 yards in one game. No one's done that the whole year in his rookie breaking yards for the whole season. So now I'm looking at it's going to be Greenlaw, Hufafa. I don't know Hufunga. Hufunga, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And then Moss are going to be the three guys that are going to have to try to contain him.
Yep.
And that's the way I see it. I mean, do you agree? Like, or is there like a different order of the players, or just like one of the guys that again, your team is now switching from man to man with Surtain going out to going a lot more zone because Surtain is out. So it's changing up your defensive, structure and what they're doing.
So here, let me answer the general question. And Nav, I wanted to group these together. I did not ignore your question, but Jack answered asked the same question. I'm going to group my answer together for both of you. Greenlaw is in. Hufunga is in. Jones is in. Riley Moss is in. And in addition to that, Jahdae Barron is in. Now, a few things to factor into the equation. Jahdae Barron is lightning fast, and he's very sticky in coverage. I could see him coming in more and playing that coverage role that you saw from Surtain. I could also see Riley Moss, Greenlaw, and perhaps even Brendan Jones and Hufunga, by the way, all picking up the slack as it pertains to Brock Bowers. The other thing to keep in mind when you saw Surtain stay on Brock Bowers last year was the fact that we had PJ Locke, who very much struggled in pure coverage as an aside. And so what you're going to be able to do within this defense here, moving to slightly more zone, which, by the way, you are absolutely correct about, that Vance Joseph has moved from pure man. By the way, the Broncos, up until when Pat Surtain went out with injury, we played man-to-man coverage like not even close. Like nobody was close to the amount of man-to-man coverage as the Denver Broncos. Like the Denver Broncos were far and away the most man-to-man coverage of any team in the NFL.
It makes sense. You got the defensive player of the year in Surtain. So, I mean, you eliminated whoever that was. Whoever's going against him, eliminated.
Right. You have Surtain and Riley Moss, who are both very capable man-to-man guys. In addition to that, you also have Jaquan McMillan, who can handle his own. And then we also went out and got Hufunga and Jones, who are also more than capable of handling their guys on their own as well. So you have an incredibly capable defensive backfield, like an incredible capable backfield there. Now, to answer the actual question that was there, moving to slightly more zone, you're going to be able to cheat guys over and move them around in order to help out in that regard. And you also have extraordinarily capable defensive backs, even with Pat Surtain out. And so I would envision that you're going to see, depending on what your scheme is and how it looks like and all that kind of stuff, Brock Bowers is going to get his yards. He's going to get some decent plays, and he's going to get some catches that you would rather him not get. The difference is going to be, is he going to be able to make a true difference when it comes to touchdowns and red zone threats? And I think that that's where the zone scheme is going to come into play. And I also think that the pressure on Geno Smith from the defensive front that the Broncos have is going to negatively impact the positive impact that Brock Bowers is going to have on your team. Make no mistake, he is a force multiplier on your team. He is a difference maker on offense, but your quarterback needs to have the time to throw him the ball if he's going to be an offensive difference maker. I'm just simply not convinced with what I've seen this entire season, no offense, against way better offensive lines, that my defensive front for the Denver Broncos, they destroyed teams that had higher ranked offensive lines than the Raiders to the tune of 5, 6, and 7 sacks.
Agreed. So that's kind of fascinating, which, the Raiders, I think they gave up, oh my God, it's like overall, it's like 21 sacks, something ridiculous. But over the last 5 games, last 3 games, only 5 sacks. And what I can see that's could be effective, if Richie, you said you were going to watch the Jaguars game. I hope you watched the second half, because what I saw that I thought about your team while watching the Jaguars is, again, maybe we can try to push up the middle, because your defensive tackles, your strength is on your edges, and your defensive tackles are a little bit lighter, so they're a little bit more in the same weight of like my center with Meredith. So maybe we can get some one-on-one win battles in there, and again, rushing on the edge with, again, track speed star with Benito. Man, the guy scares me. He's like the next Max Crosby I see right now. Is like, that little dump off pass that what the Raiders did against Jacksonville. If Benito's coming in that hard, a way to neutralize that is just get him on the outside, just beyond that, a little touch throw, and then let him go against your secondary, and let's see what happens there. So that will be a good matchup to watch as well.
You're completely missing 2 guys on the Broncos defensive front, which, I mean, as a Broncos fan, I almost got sick of hearing his name in the broadcast against the Texans. Like, there was some legit fanboying from the announcers there about Zach Allen on my Denver Broncos defensive front. Now, in fairness, he was having himself a game. So I'm not necessarily saying it wasn't warranted. I'm just simply saying that you're downplaying the interior, not the center, not like the D tackle per se, but like the DNs. You're downplaying their impact on the field. So John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen have destroyed our opponents from the middle part of the field. Now, are they lighter than a lot of guys? Yes.
So Nav, you're right. They are predictable because they don't really do a lot of they don't disguise a lot of stuff because they don't really need to. They're either coming at you or they're not, and they'll come at you with 4, or they'll come at you with everybody. That's how good they are.
Yeah, the fact remains is Zach Allen in the Houston game, there was 3 different plays that I watched the Houston Texans try to triple team Zach Allen. And there was one play that I remember vividly.
Wait, they're triple teaming a linebacker?
No, they're triple teaming a defensive end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, defensive. Okay,
And Zach Allen pushed 2 of the guys double teaming him straight back in to the quarterback. So, this is what I'm saying is that the Texans' offensive line, I believe, is a hair above where the Raiders' offensive line is right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they're not great.
But they're not.
They're not great, but that's your opinion. They're better
fantastic.
at pass blocking than they are on run blocking. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right, but the point is that the success rate and the depth that's across the defensive line for the Broncos. If you're going to have to double team Allen, then you're leaving the edges unprotected because you simply just don't have the personnel in order to block guys like that. You just don't. And in particular, you have Cooper and Benito as your kind of 1A and 1B, who are having themselves a year this year in terms of getting home. And then in addition to that, Ellis is starting to come back into his own after coming off of some injuries. I expect him to have a decent game against the Raiders as well.
Richie, what do you guys have, 40 sacks?
Yeah, something
ridiculous amount of sacks. And again, I'm not saying that. But I will also say, it's going to be interesting. The Raiders with, Brock coming back, they did 58% of their snaps and 12 personnel. So now you're bringing, Michael Mayers on that up front and on the offensive line too. And I could even see them doing some 13 personnel against your team because, again, your team is explosive, getting up, getting after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I can see some more of that matchup between our teams this week, especially Jacoby Myers is gone.
Yes.
And now you have to bring up
blocker.
Jack Best.
He's a good blocker.
Jacoby Myers is a good blocker, but you got Jack Best, who's actually bigger and stronger, and is a guy who was designed to replace Jacoby Myers. When Jacoby had 0 drops last year in the NFL, Jack Best had only 1 drop. So it's kind of a similar player, so I can see him getting a lot more playing time. So when we watch the game, watch Bowers kind of line up behind Besh. So Besh takes whoever, and then Bauer goes whatever direction it's going to go. But he's actually bigger and stronger. So even if it's going to be shorter passes, because I think that's what it takes to go against your team. Because you guys got the no-fly zone.
Jack, I need to interject. So your tight ends' names are Brock Bowers and Mayer.
And Michael Mayers.
No Mayer.
No S.
Mayer.
Okay.
Mayer.
Okay. Now,
sorry, I got a good. I had a Jacoby Myers on my team, so sounds very similar.
You had Jacoby Myers, who is no longer on your team, so you can kind of put his name out your head, and then you have Mayer and you have Bowers, but they are both very good tight ends. Okay, like very good. Yes. Bowers is not a great blocker, so that is kind of.
What do you mean he's not? He is a good blocker.
Pretty good. He's pretty good, Richie.
No, he's a good blocker, not a.
He's just not used in that role that much. Yeah, he's like more of like he's like a Kelsey. Like
he's not a great blocker. I didn't say he wasn't a good blocker. He's not a great blocker. So the kicker is that when you go against better edges, they will do things that is more. Basically, they're going to win against him because he's not a tackle. And look, we can agree to disagree.
I see a lot of fucking chipping. Excuse my language. I see Mayer and Bauer just doing everything they can. They're going to be coming at your edges. I mean, I could see them just even lining up almost like a defensive front, probably, to just do anything they can to slow them down and then, releasing for catches. But how come you guys, I mean, Jack, like no mention of the run game, really? Like you're going to have to run on these guys.
We have to try to run. That's the thing that sucks because I've looked at what, again, I brought it up earlier in the show that they didn't really use Genty to go up the middle because the offensive line has been that poor on the inside.
So what about most?
And again, Jacksonville is like, they have, when you go against bigger defensive tackles, it's tougher because, again, for all of us, we have smaller centers, right? So it makes it tougher.
I just have a fat, lazy one, so it's not small.
Okay.
This is where I agree. If Genty's not getting it done against these D line, Mostert needs to come in. Mostert needs to be that hammer. Use Genty.
He can't be the hammer. He's smaller even. Well, so the way I look at it with Richie's team, his defensive tackles are smaller. They're meant to be more versatile, quicker, a quick defense. So I see it actually his defensive tackles, my offensive line on the inside are actually matching up better because of the size. And don't ever forget that JPJ is in there too. So it's like I can see them trying to run the ball more, but what I do like again with Benito's speed is the flare out with Genty. We saw it. He had more yards, more touches, catching the ball just on a little flare out. And yes, I will take the challenge of Genty versus the linebackers that you have and see how that plays out. Hey, what's up?
That's going to be a really hell of a matchup because Broncos linebackers are pretty damn good. And,
they are good.
Yeah. Your guys' nightmare in this game from the Raider perspective is 3rd and long. You do not want to be in 3rd and long against the Broncos. They could rush 4 and still get at you, but stay out of 3rd and longs. Try to get some resemblance of a run game. And if you want to go for your short passes, especially with an elite guy like Genty, which you'll probably need against the really good linebackers to make something happen, make a miss, make one or two misses, that's what you're going to go. But 3rd and long and deep bombs, that's probably not going to cut it against the Broncos.
No.
That's just my opinion. But this is a division game once again. Yes, it's going to be Pete's first time as a Raider head coach going against the Denver Broncos. So there's going to be some unfamiliarity probably between each other's clubs, but not coaching wise, because Sean and Pete are very familiar with each other. Being the NFC, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm just going to get my score prediction real quick. I really wanted the Raiders. I was rooting for you guys, and I don't know. I don't trust your QB, man. I don't trust your QB, and I don't even know if I trust your offensive coordinator. But I have this closer than probably what Richie does. Broncos are 9.5-point favorites. It's pretty wild. But this is a division game once again. So I've got the Broncos winning 25, Raiders 17. I've got
we're close.
This closer than what people would think.
No, I'm right there with you, DZ. Actually, one other quick fact. Denver Broncos linebackers are the 3rd worst in coverage linebackers in the NFL this year.
Wow.
So that's the whole thing about, I want to see Genty coming out of the backfield more and going against that.
Yes, Nav, 25.
So what was your score, DZ? I want to write it down.
25-17.
Which, by the way, is right within kind of like the Broncos average. And if you actually look at what DZ just predicted, he effectively just took what each of our team's average points are. I'm not saying exactly, but I'm saying roughly speaking, and presented that as a score, which is completely legitimate given where both teams have been at this year.
Now I'm expecting Richie's score. Richie's got some moxie. I can tell he's got something under his ass right now about this game. So yeah. But look, division games, man, I very rarely have I seen a blowout. Well, maybe I'm not paying attention to your guys' teams, but it doesn't usually happen much.
Yep. So Jack, I'll throw over to you, and then I have some other comments just in terms of the mismatches and other things that I see from the Broncos side, and then I'll give my score prediction after.
All right. I want to answer to probably those mismatches. So again, DZ, we're right there. We're really close, bro. And I said this, in our 3-way chat way before the show. I have the Raiders 19, Denver 25. Is the way I got it. I don't want it to happen, but that's just the way I see it. That Denver defense is just that good.
You don't want to hear my other score prediction. I had another score prediction, but I went.
Yeah, then don't say it.
So I think there's a few things here in this game that are going to be problematic. Generally speaking, I think you're right, Jack, in terms of your general statement. The Broncos linebacking core, their weakness is their coverage ability, although with Greenlaw back, that has largely changed. He's a better sideline to sideline linebacker. And in addition to that, what you've seen is with Greenlaw and Singleton, in particular in the Houston game, with Greenlaw being back with Singleton, is Stranad was very aggressive, and that's what allowed some of his plays to be so good. But then the other problem you ended up with was what I refer to as the Justin Simmons effect, which is if you get too aggressive by trying to just make the hero play, it's all about me and my stats, you run the risk of actually completely whiffing on the play altogether because you're not staying within your lane. You're overcompensating for errors and problems. And Singleton then tried to cheat over to then help Stranad with some of those gaps and issues because he was kind of overcompensating. Singleton is no longer needing to do that with Greenlaw on the other side. Greenlaw in and of himself is certainly capable of being the green dot player himself. Singleton is the green dot on the Broncos and the linebacking core. And so you have two guys that are effectively leaders in their own rights, and you're seeing better linebacking play now with the two of them out there together, which I believe was actually the plan all along when we brought in Greenlaw to begin with. And Greenlaw is going to play in this game, and I think you're going to continue to see those progressions forward. In addition to that, Jahdae Barron, as we spoke about earlier, depending on what schemes and how you bring out in terms of who's playing where, when, why, all that kind of stuff, you're going to likely see Jahdae Barron step in those coverage style plays, who will step in for Greenlaw rather than Singleton, and will then be able to add an additional layer of coverage ability on those plays and block other guys. So Singleton will likely remain as the green dot player that's out there in the linebacking core. And then when we move into the nickel and dime stuff, you'll end up with Jahdae Barron out there as the additional defensive back. And he's a guy that can actually cover and run with faster, whether it be wide receivers, running backs, or tight ends like a Brock Bowers or even a Mayer. Notice the no S there, Nav. I know how to pronounce the name. With regards to everything else overall, my general prediction here is I just think that there's an offset to what you're talking about here, where I think the pressure from the defensive line is going to be a little bit too much for the offensive line of the Raiders, and I think that the Broncos have proven that over the course of the year. I also think that your quarterback has shown that when pressure comes in a regular fashion, it speeds up his clock and forces errors, and I think that that's an issue in and of itself. We also saw that from much better quarterbacks, no offense, in the league thus far that the Broncos have played, where the defense, as a result of their pressure, has forced poor plays or bad plays from them that are atypical, for example, from what you're used to seeing from them as well. So my general score prediction, and as I said at the beginning of the show, DZ, you're not necessarily wrong with my general sentiment here. I do think this is going to be a bigger disparity in score than a typical divisional game, simply because of the defensive strength of the Broncos and how they have played this year, in addition to the fact that there is a certain ascension of elements of the offense of the Broncos over the last couple weeks, where the mistakes, even against really good defenses, have not necessarily reared their ugly heads as they did against teams like the Jets. So my general prediction is actually a little bit higher than yours. And I don't have the Raiders actually scoring a touchdown in this, but I do have a bunch of field goals. So I'm looking at this one as 15 as the point total for the Raiders, which is just a hair below kind of what your average score has been, again factoring in divisional rivalry game. However, I think this is going to be a bit of a blowout on the offensive side, not purely on the offensive side for the Broncos, but I actually think that there's going to be some defensive points put on the board for the Broncos as a result of the pressure. And I have this as a 35-point game for the Broncos.
Wow. Okay.
I'm 35-15.
Yeah, 35-15.
Yeah, 35-15.
Yeah. Man, fives are coming in hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, fives are coming in hot. Rich has got double fives. So one thing that's going to be interesting to see, like, on the opposite side, why you're not going to get 35 points, is that Lonnie Johnson Jr. is going to be coming back this week. He's actually the one pure free safety the Raiders have. So now that relieves Polamalu from having to be that free safety guy. Now he comes back in the box. And then you got Jeremy Chin. Now he can move over to the big slot safety player, which is going to give your team heck in trying to get catches, run the ball for sure. So that's going to change up this defense. That's what it was supposed to be from day one, and it's finally happening. So let's see if you get 35.
It's going to be a fun game. I'm actually excited.
But on Captain Jack's comment, that's actually not true. The last 3 or 4 games, I actually picked the Raiders to win, and they won. Like I have been pretty bullish, as in like I actually don't think the Broncos were a particularly well matched team against the Raiders up until this season. Like I there's been a shift. And in large part, I expected the Raiders to actually do better this year than they are.
7-2 smug. It's come on. It's that pedigree.
No, it's more along the lines of the defense is playing. The Broncos made defensive changes this year that have actually impacted more positively than I expected in the offseason. And so those changes are kind of showing themselves throughout the season. Despite the fact the offensive has had some struggles, the defense have been so good that they have picked up the slack and kept us in games and then allowed us to come back and win.
Yep.
So it's my comments are not without foundation. Like I actually have
that's a winning formula.
Yeah. So that's kind of what my point is.
And then watch out.
Well, I also see, like, I still see that, the Broncos winning the game, but also now that you're changing your scheme up and Greenlaw is coming back off of injury and everything that was taught the whole season was man to man. Now it's going more to zone. So for a guy who really hasn't played on the field, it's going to be interesting to see how he does in that concept with it all changing up too.
Greenlaw was already back last game.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, that's the first game back. And it's like you're changing from a man-to-man scheme to a zone scheme.
No,
so he's got one.
We changed to a zone scheme for the Houston Texans game.
I need to watch that game and just kind of see how he did. Texans offense is not that good. So
they had Davis Mills playing most of the game though.
Shoot, we're 2 hours and 32 minutes in. DZ, what do you got?
On what?
Your score for your game.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Dude, come on. I already got enough PTSD. I don't need this. We got there. Let's see. Someone put out a chart on the let me see. Let me get it real quick. Here we go. Steelers D-line. I don't know if they're the top D-line, but they're right up there this year. Highsmith, he's graded at, a 77.3. Hayward, I think, is the number 1 D tackle. I don't know. What is he, like 50 years old? Herbig's at a 90. Watt an 82.1. And then you have the Chargers offensive line, which you've got some guys, especially on that right side, well below average. I think from the center over is well below average. And so if they can't block these guys, this game can get ugly quick. I mean, it can get bad. But if they can move the pocket, if they scheme this up, they chip, they do what they need to do, get down and gritty. I'm sure Roman's going to have some heavy personnel. They're going to try to want to run it, which didn't work last week, against a lesser D-line. I don't think it's going to work against a better D-line, better team as a whole in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's coming to LA. Their fans travel really well. Probably half of them live in LA, so there's going to be terrible towels everywhere. It'll match the Chargers, so who cares? But I think I saw this really weird stat that TJ Watt only has 1.5 sacks combined in dome games. So it's like he doesn't play as well inside. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm going to hit the over on that one against our team. Where did I put this? So the Chargers are like 3-point favorites. I think it's just because it's at home. There is, I don't know. I got the Steelers winning 27-21. Chargers do have the defense is, they're going to show up. There's another thing to factor to come in this is that, under Harbaugh, this team played really well in November. especially on prime time. It's at home. They're getting some guys back, but they did lose the biggest guy they shouldn't have lost, and they still don't have Omari and Hampton. So, yeah, I'm still picking the Steelers. So take this 27-21.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised. You got an MVP quarterback. Your rookie tight end is really stepped up. You got Ladd. You got Third and Keenan. As long as the offensive line can just keep Herbert upright, you got a chance to win this game. You really do. I mean, the Steelers are lacking on their offense. Your defense is good. So I don't see them putting up a lot of points either. And so I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. I could talk more about it, but I got your team winning 23-20. I'll take those 3 points.
Like that. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but I mean, it could get ugly. Like I said, they've got to have an excellent game plan heading into Sunday night if they want a chance, in my opinion. And I think I heard Tomlin or somebody talked about it. They know exactly how they're going to attack this team. They're going after the tackles. And like that's their lining right up. They're going full bore. They're going to make Justin make mistakes or get rid of the ball quick. That's their whole MO probably.
Yep. So I'm not going to get into any of the details. We'll do that next week on the show. My score prediction is going to be 24-20 Steelers. I think the loss of Joe Alt is a big deal. We've seen what happens against teams that have good D lines in that fashion. So I think it's going to be a close game, but ultimately I think the Steelers are starting to kind of come into their own a little bit. And I think that the injuries on the Chargers is going to.
I mean, that Steelers D line. I think they held like JT to like 40 yards, 44 yards or something.
Yeah.
And then they also held who was it? Saquon Barkley. I don't know if it was. They've held some running backs to like damn near nothing, and they punked that offensive line. That Colts O-line, damn near elite in my opinion.
Yes, they are elite.
But there was an anomaly in that game, and I kind of said that before this show. I mean, 6 turnovers and 5 sacks against the Colts? Like, I don't know what the hell. They either are that team, or they had a great plan, or the Colts, like, that was just a bad matchup. That's weird. Like, I don't know.
Great coaches adapt. Harbaugh is a great example of that, by the way. There's no way the Chargers are in the position. Like, a team without a great coach does not end up in a 6-win team with the amount of injuries that the Chargers have. So, like, let's just call a duck a duck. Tomlin is that guy as well.
Oh, like, he's an excellent coach.
I'm sorry, like, he is that dude, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
he is that dude.
Let's just
awesome coach.
Like, let's just call that exactly what it is. And guys like him, guys who are in that position, they know what to do. They know how to do it. They know why to do it. They know all the different stuff. They know how to, galvanize the troops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My point here is this is going to be a bit of a blood in the water game. This is going to be, like this is like very much so, right? This is going to be you're either going to have Penning and or, your other guys that you have on your roster that kind of have an outstanding game, shock everyone, and you end up winning again because Harbaugh is a great coach too. Like, again, like the point is like, you're not dealing with a slouch in Harbaugh either. But at the end of the day, at some point, there is a breaking point in terms of injuries and guys you have or don't have. And you can only do so much for so long to kind of, keep away the riffraff from getting at Herbert before it has an impact. And I think that with the loss of Joe Alt and the fact that it is 1 week away from losing Joe Alt, a fully flushed out plan on how to address that new loss. I know Alt was gone for a little bit and then came back, but it's a new loss that you're still having to now think of a long-term, broader plan for.
I'm pretty sure all our losses when we're with Alt out. So the 3 losses we have, no Joe Alt.
Yeah. So my gut reaction on this is kind of what I said before. Is I think that. I think Harbaugh will find a way. I just don't believe it's this week.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my comment, right? It's just not this week.
my biggest thing is like this is where the defense needs to have a game, in my opinion. Like, hey, Justin, we got your back, bro. Like, let us try to get some of this stuff, and that's what my hope is. But Richie, I agree with you. They smell blood in the water, and why not, man? Go after it, you know.
Veteran coaches do veteran coach things, and I think Tomlin's that guy, and I think Tomlin galvanizes his team to do those things in the right moments. There's a reason why he's never had an actual losing season.
Yeah.
Right? Like
they probably should have, just to benefit their club, but they haven't.
Yeah, and so
just to make everyone else in the NFL happy.
Yeah, that says a lot about him as a coach and what he's able to do with not a lot, you know, for example. So anyways,
Are
my
Chiefs on a bye, guys? By real quick, are they? What's their deal? Who they got? Anybody know? Are they on a bye? I don't know.
No, I didn't look it up. If you're going to look that up, I do have an interesting fact.
The Chiefs play.
Oh, they do play games.
They have a bye in week 10.
Okay.
They have a bye.
All right. So we don't have to worry about them. All right, cool.
So they will not win and they will not lose. So that means that
we
by the
hope
end of
they
this week,
lose
they will
on their
be
bye week, Richie. They need to lose on their bye week.
I agree.
All right, quick.
So the question is
fact. Sorry, go ahead, Richie.
Well, I was going to say the question is, does someone do something stupid on the bye week for the Chiefs?
We pray and hope, but
right.
No matter what, they get away with it.
We all hope that. You know, Kelsey, you know, he had 100 touchdowns, which, you know, this is from last week. He tied Priest Holmes with 100 TDs to be number one on the list.
Damn.
Patrick Mahomes, 9 years from, you know, being a rookie to now, is tied Dan Marino to have the most 3 touchdowns in a game.
Wow.
In games, so.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, I mean, the Chiefs have obviously had a good stretch there with Mahomes and Reed being together. Much like the Patriots, though, there comes a time where you can't keep the band together, and unless you have a long-term plan.
What you just said made me think of something, and I know you're on these. They're negative in cap next year.
Yes.
They're almost at the bottom.
Yeah. So the point ultimately is that at some point the dynasties kind of fall, and those dynasties need to capitalize on that. Right now the Chiefs are third in the division. The question is, are they going to have a bounce back? Like, are they going to draft well like they have in the past, or are they going to fall off? We'll wait and see. But either way, guys, week 10 is in the book, week 10 is coming up. Week 9 is in the books. And the first game that is relevant to this show is Raiders versus Broncos, which is a rivalry for the history books, like legit. It's been going on forever, and it will continue go on forever, and we will go from there. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep in touch over the course of the next few days, because obviously there can only be one winner of the Raiders versus Broncos, and we'll see who comes out on top. Until next week, where we go on and talk about the Week 10 ebbs and flows, victories and losses, and other things, and hopefully no injuries, because, of course, I don't want any injuries from anyone in the division. I don't care what team you're with. Okay, just, none of that juju. Anyways, we'll go forward. We'll see you next week on the Wild Wild West, where we will recap Week 10, talk about Week 11, and go forward from there. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Like, subscribe, and share. See you next week. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute, work hard for the